Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Ian is here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up? Welcome back.
Thank you. Yesterday, I want to thank Chase, by the way, and TD for stepping in there for a little bit. I want to thank Plaster for stepping in as well. But it was a little under the weather yesterday. We power through today. Ian, today is Valentine's Day, and I want to start on the theme of love.
Okay.
If I may today, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I know you come to this show to hear the yelling and screaming, the angry, that this guy needs to be fired, this guy stinks. I know that's what you're used to. But in the spirit of Valentine's Day, I do want to start on a more from the heart, just from the heart moment of truth here. Because I love my country. I love the United States of America. We're not perfect. We got our problems. Trust me. We could do things better. But at the end of the day, I am proud of the red, white, and blue. And I am proud of those who have served. And I am proud of those that, again, believe in what this country stands for. So last night, when I watched a hockey game, I was saying there's a USA, USA, USA. And I actually felt great because for the first time, I was on the other side of watching UC Saros play goal. I mean, I've never, ever rooted against UC Saros to be successful until last night when he was playing the United States of America. And boy, he was terrible last night. But at least I got to enjoy it. At least every time they pumped that puck in the back of the net, I got to say, USA, USA, USA. But that doesn't take away from the stench that is UC Saros' performance last night. I've said time and time again, it is time to stop making excuses for UC Saros. And isn't every game that he plays kind of the same? He gave up 6 goals to Chicago last Friday night, and then he gets in net, and that Chicago team is horrible. He gave up 6 goals last Friday night, and he gets in net last night, and he gives up 6 goals to the mighty United States of America. And the excuses are the same as well. Well, it's not Saros' fault. It's the defense. Finland has injuries on the blue line. Jared Miro Haskinen's not in there. I know. I've heard it's never Saros' fault. We talk about that on a consistent basis. And yet the games are the same. When it was 2-1, USA going to the third period, I knew Saros was going to fall apart in the third period because I've seen it all year long. And again, it was about a 3-minute stretch of bad hockey. A 3-minute stretch, which was an awful lot like Game 1 of the Vancouver series last year and Game 4 of the Vancouver series last year. Well, he played well for 56 minutes. Yeah. The problem is those other 3 count. The traditional stats for Saros all year long have been atrocious. Save percentage and the goals against average, the GAA, and then even the nerd stats. His goal save above expected. Even that's terrible. And I don't care about the stats other than the fact that every single stat points up to the fact that UC Saros has been terrible this season. And what happened last night is the exact same as every game he plays. It doesn't matter if he's playing the United States of America or if he's playing the junior varsity. It will be the same. He'll have that 3-minute stretch where he'll look like absolute crap, and then everybody will say afterwards, oh, if that didn't happen, he would have played well. And I'm not rooting for UC Saros to be a complete and total puddle. In fact, I'm rooting to be wrong. I'm rooting that this contract will not be a complete and total failure. But I am worried, and I mean this with all sincerity. I am worried that every single person at Bridgestone Arena is going to get fired over that UC Saros contract. Because there were serious questions when it came to Saros. We called it this summer the radio station's civil war. Because most of the station wanted to trade Saros and go with Askarov, and the midday show did not. And Ian. But that was before the contract. And Saros has turned in a sub-900 save percentage, leads the NHL in losses, and that contract hasn't even kicked in yet. It hasn't even started. UC Saros is losing 71% of his games this season. Justus Annunen, who, no disrespect to him, is a nobody, has made 9 starts for the Predators this year and has won 7 of those games. Willie says every time, well, Saros gets the least amount of goal support in the league. So what did he do that Justus Annunen didn't do to his team that makes them not want to score for him? Doesn't make any sense. But Saros does have a track record of being okay. Maybe of being above average. Again, I don't think he has any track record of being elite. In order to be elite, you have to win a playoff series. So maybe this is just a teeny little blip on the radar. And this is just UC Saros's and the Predators' season from hell. But he's never won anything. He's never won a playoff series. He's never won a Vezina. I'm sorry, I don't care that he got close. Dak Prescott was the runner-up in 2023 for the NFL's MVP award. We're not giving Dak a trophy for that. And now he's been completely and totally run out of the international tournament. What, by the way, is a very, very exciting international tournament. And I've said that maybe there's nothing they can do. This is why it was the station civil war. Because we all knew, whether it was the midday show who was in favor of Saros, whether it was us that were against it, we knew that by July 1 of this past year, the Predators had to make a decision one way or another. Robbie, Joe, Caroline, Jared, Adam Vingan, we all voted move on from Saros, go to the young guy. Willie, Derek, Ian, all voted commit to Saros. And that was the choice they had to make. And that was the choice they made. So maybe there's no getting out of it at this point. Again, the contract has not kicked in, so you could, in theory, trade him and rid yourself of the 8 years and the $7.74 million contract that you've got ahead of you. But the truth is, I am convinced, and I mean this with all due respect, I hope I'm wrong. I think this contract's going to get people fired. Like, I think that people are going to lose their jobs because of this UC Saros contract. And I don't like it, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Saros leads them to many playoff wins in the future. But how can we just assume that's going to happen when, you know, he's never done it? Every time he gets into playoffs, it's a puddle against the Arizona Coyotes or the first 3 minutes of the third period last night. I'm just telling you, I know how this works. And if the past is any sort of indication of what we are in for the next 9 years, these guys aren't going to keep their jobs. The general managers, the coaches, they're not going to keep their jobs if you go 9 years without winning a playoff series. If you go 9 years of game one total meltdown, just like Vancouver last year, just like the international tournament last night. Adam Vingan asked me, he said, if Saros plays well in the Four Nations tournament, will you change your opinion? And I said, well, let's see. And last night, we saw more terrible, more of what we've seen all year long. Again, maybe there's nothing they can do about it. And I don't take any solace in saying this, but something has got to change, and it feels like nothing is going to change. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. That's what we're starting on. UC Saros, his terrible season and his terrible performance last night in the Four Nations face-off. I mean, it was a meltdown. And I got to tell you, I wasn't surprised. And apparently, the Predators are stuck with Saros. And if you ever ask the Predators about Saros, they'll tell you there's nothing they're going to – why would we ever? But apparently, that's not what Finland's going to do. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
Held in by Faber at the right point. Long shot. Score! Team USA takes the lead. That time Faber, he did shoot the puck. Balding the deflection. And Team USA on top lane. Zone entry. Score! Long wrister from Kachuk. Just like that.
This hit
Team USA with a 2-goal lead. Austin Matthews off to Gensel. Score! Matthews to Gensel. 26 seconds and 2 Team USA goals.
Now you got to pass. It's something you don't do well. Up and down the ice. That's not the Finns game.
Eichel to Tkachuk. Score! Second of the game for Brady Tkachuk. Team USA has blown this game open in 3 minutes of third period time.
3 minutes, and it's all it took. Let me say this for UC Saros' performance yesterday. When they had a 1-0 lead, I thought to myself, oh my God, if UC Saros shuts out the Americans and they win 1-0 or something like that, Willie and Chris Mason are going to be insufferable with how much Saros back patting they would do. And so I'm watching the game. And again, I'm rooting for Team USA. I'm allowed to root for Team USA, am I not? So I'm rooting for Team USA. And they scored the second goal, which was, again, favor from the blue line, fires up a wrister. And who was it? Was it Boldy Ian that got his stick in there? And there was nothing Saros could have done on that second goal. I mean, that nobody saves that. So it's 2-1, and Saros has played well. And I'm like, okay, Saros has actually played okay. I'm not going to pin the second goal on him. And then, the third goal. That was a Tkachuk wrister like from 50 feet away. And he put it on the net, and Saros couldn't adjust to it. And then, again, I thought the fourth, I can't remember if it was the fourth or the fifth was a softie. He just puddled. Just right then and there. Just crapped his pants. And he has done that far too often this season. So after the game was over, the Finland coach said that he wasn't sure who was going to be in net on Saturday. And when you say you don't know, that means we haven't told the guy we're going to bench that we're going to bench him, but we're going to bench him. And Ray Ferraro, who made some excuses for Saros early in the third period, stopped doing it midway through the third period. Here's what Ray Ferraro, the ESPN lead broadcaster, said last night during the game about UC Saros for all the people out there. Because how often do we hear, it's not Saros's fault, it's the defense's fault, it's the lack of goal support he gets, it's this guy's fault, it's that guy's fault, it's never his fault. And so here's what Ray Ferraro, who I think you hockey gurus out there, you guys think he knows hockey, here's what he said midway through the third period last night.
I think ahead to Saturday. I wonder if the Finns come back in a real critical game against Sweden, if they come back with Saros or if they go with Kevin Lankinen. And Lankinen has just had an amazing season out in Vancouver. And with, a 6 spot up on the board here, it has to give you a little bit of a thought to whether you go with Saros again.
Ray didn't say it, but Ray said it. He's like, yeah, they should probably go with Kevin Lankinen on Saturday. In this quick round-robin tournament, you got to win now. Like, Finland needs the United States to beat Canada tomorrow, which I'm not sure they're going to do. But Finland needs it, and then they need to beat Sweden in regulation in order to move on. So, you got to win. You got to play whatever card you – and Ray Ferraro is talking about Kevin Lankinen getting the start. Kevin freaking Lankinen. Kevin Lankinen, who you guys remember as UC Saros' backup. And here's the problem with Saros, the great UC Saros conundrum that nobody seems to talk about enough. Last summer, the Predators had the choice of going to the young, talented goalie versus the established NHL starter. And the pro-Saros faction turned it into, well, who's going to be goalie if you trade Saros and Yaroslav Askarov is not ready? And the answer every time was, play Kevin Lankinen until the kid's ready. And every time it was like, play Kevin Lankinen? What are you talking about? Ha, 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 ha. And we all got laughed out of the building. Ha, 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 Kevin Lankinen. Kevin Lankinen, who again, he wanted to be a starter. Nobody in the league viewed him as a starter. He wanted to be a starter. Kevin Lankinen has won 19 games this year for the Vancouver Canucks. 19. And apparently he doesn't stink so bad that the Finnish coach isn't going to go to him because he's going to be playing tomorrow. And this goes back to what I call the Saros virus. And it has infected the brains at 501 Broadway. They think UC Saros is a superstar. He's not. He's closer to a replacement level goalie than he is a superstar. And I know this because he's going to be replaced in the Four Nations tournament. Finland doesn't have to worry about a 9-year contract and a no-move clause and everything else that's about to kick in with Saros. Finland can do whatever they want. Finland's coach knows we got to win tomorrow. He doesn't have the Saros virus, which is everybody that I work with thinks this guy is the bee's knees. So Finland's coach is going to be able to, make the move and switch the goalies. They think he's a superstar. And yet, we always talk about replacement level players. A replacement level player is not some Scarbini, some bum, a replacement level player is if we just went out and got a guy, right? If we just went out and got a replacement level Mason Rudolph goalie, here's what it would be. UC Saros is about to be replaced by a replacement level player who last year played as well as he did and who this year has played better than him. But you're telling me he's a superstar. Again, these are the same people that think Pekka Rinne was good enough for a statue. And these same people think that Saros is Rinne 2.0. He's not. Again, replacement level player. That's what Kevin Lankinen is. Nobody in the league viewed Kevin Lankinen as a number one goalie. Vancouver has played him like a number one goalie because their number one goalie, Thatcher Demko, is hurt. Now, he has played well, and Lankinen played well here as the backup. But again, we got laughed at when we said, fine, if Askarov's not ready right away, sign Lankinen and start him. Ha, 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 ha. Saros is so much better than Lankinen. Ha, 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 ha. And here we are in an international tournament where, again, the Finnish coach doesn't have to prove that UC Saros is a superstar. The Finnish coach doesn't have bosses that are probably planning a statue of Saros to go next to the one of Rinne. The Finnish coach is just trying to win a game. And what's he going to do? Ray Ferraro just told you. He's going to bench him. He's going to play Lankinen. So if he's good enough to get benched there, he's not good enough to get benched here. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you if, again, you can't look at these games objectively and say, oh, my God, this guy, his backup is playing better than him. His backup last year is playing significantly better than him and is going to replace him in this Four Nations tournament. And I can't help you if you feel that way. I cannot. Because, again, those are the facts. And like I said, maybe there's nothing they can do about it. Technically, you can trade Saros before this contract kicks in. I will tell you, I am so hell-bent on freeing myself of Saros that I would do something crazy. Like, I would attach an athlete. I said an athlete. I would attach an asset to get rid of him. Just so I just move on. And I know that sounds crazy, but again, we were having these debates this summer before Saros crapped the bed all year, and now he's crapped the bed all year. And I just don't know how some of these people are going to survive the next 9 years of not winning playoff games and those performances like last night. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. We will get to those next. Plus, I do have a thought about this tournament. don't know if anybody else is watching it like I am, but woof, we'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game. And let me tell all the fine folks that the Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for NASCAR. 94.9 The Fan will have live coverage of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race, fresh from Florida 250 tonight at 6. Tomorrow, catch the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, United Rentals 300, starting at 3:30. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. You know, I absolutely love Hiller. They take great care of my home, and they can do the same for you. Did you know that Hiller has been in business since 1990 and is family owned and operated? And Jimmy Hiller was recently named amongst the most admired CEOs because of the way he truly cares for his team and his clients. Hiller takes care of the customer on every job, every time, and they stand behind their work with 100% satisfaction of happy you'll be or the service is free. And I know this because I use Hiller at my home. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call that fix truck today.
he'll come out of it. The question is, what's the process and how quick can it happen?
I'm not saying that he's terrible. I know that he still has game in him, but it just seems like this season is a wash.
Yes,
now.
I would agree with that.
So that's all I'm saying.
The optics of this situation are terrible for UC Saros. And I want to make this abundantly clear. Good thing this is being recorded, so if it gets cut and played later, I just want to make sure I have all of my words in order here. UC Saros has not been good this season. It's really hard to argue with that. There really is not much of an argument you can make, especially relative to how he's played throughout his career. The optics of this situation are not good for UC Saros. You hoped that he would play well in this tournament against top-of-the-line competition. The third period for him and Finland was a disaster yesterday. And now with the news that it appears that Kevin Lankinen, who backed up UC Saros for a couple of seasons, is taking over for him in this tournament. Again, the optics for UC Saros have been terrible this season.
That was the midday show today. And Ian, I think you did a good job right there of kind of getting everybody's feelings, right? Willie's like, he'll get out of this. You'll see. Derek's kind of like, look, man, I know he's not a bum, but I mean, And Adam saying the optics of all this are terrible. Yeah, it is terrible. The fact that, again, we fought tooth and nail as a radio station this summer about what to do with the goalies. And they were like, you'll see. Saros is elite. He is. And he's got a sub-9 save percentage. It's awful. And I just don't know what to say. Like, I clearly was on the other side of this. I did not make up my mind on UC Saros until midway through the Vancouver series. And midway through the Vancouver series last year, knowing the timeline, knowing a decision was going to have to be made by July 1st of last year, I said, it's not enough. It's not enough to commit. Now, maybe I could be talked into a bridge deal, but not enough to commit to UC Saros. No, Jared, you don't understand. It's the defense. It's their fault. He's playing in an international series. He's going to have a single predator on his team. How can you tell me it's the defense's fault with the Predators and it's the defense's fault with Finland? When does it become not the defense's fault? And again, the Finnish coach doesn't seem to think it's just the defense's fault because he's going to take Saros out. So I struggle with the excuse making. And that only makes me madder because it makes me think that the Predators, just based off the contract they gave him, can't smell the coffee, which was my biggest problem under David Boyle. And so last night was an unmitigated disaster for UC Saros and the Predators. Now, if you're people like me, USA, it was very exciting, but it's been awful. I also just want to say before we get to your phones, this Four Nations face-off is awesome. Like, this is the NHL. Get rid of the All-Star game and play this thing every year. Because I think you can win over more casual fans that are just casual sports fans looking to watch something on TV. Now that football's gone, you can win them over by having them support the flag. USA. Like, trust me. I mean, hell, Canada hates us. We play them on Saturday, which I'm incredibly excited about, especially in my household. But, like, that's the kind of thing that, again, a casual sports fan, not a big hockey fan, doesn't know all the players, certainly is not going to watch a Vancouver game on TV. They'll watch that. They'll get behind the flag. And that's how you learn about these guys. The Kachuk brothers and Austin Matthews and Boldy and all that's how you learn. So I think this Four Nations face-off is freaking awesome. And I am pumped for tomorrow night's game. And I am excited about the eventual championship game and everything else. So while I continue my complaining about Saros, I do want to tip my cap to the NHL. Because this is, again, they have to take these breaks anyways. This is the smartest thing they could do is this Four Nations face-off I think it's fabulous. Eventually, and I, again, don't want to get political here, but eventually, Russia's going to have to get themselves back in the fold. But eventually that's because, again, it's not really a world championship without them. And I'm fine with keeping them out for right now. But eventually we're going to want them in there too. It's been incredibly enjoyable. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Bob in Antioch's going to kick us off here on the program. Bob, thank you for waiting. You go ahead.
Thank you. About a year ago when the debate started about whether to trade Saros or not, Saros admitted that his confidence was shaken, and he really doesn't seem to have played with much confidence since then. How much of this do you think has to do with the fact that it's in his head and he's really shaken confidence-wise?
I mean, I certainly think that's part of it, because what we've been seeing out of UC Saros, thank you, Bob, what we've been seeing out of UC Saros is not what we had seen leading up to this year. And again, and Pekka kind of had that problem too. Minus the 2017 run, Pekka kind of had that too, where there were some big moments where Pekka didn't show up. And then Pekka had some big moments like that Dallas series in 2019 that he almost single-handedly stole. Pekka had some big moments too. So I don't want to throw him under the bus there, but there was, I think confidence is a big part of it. But here's the deal. When you're paid that kind of money and you're given a no-move clause, it's your job to be confident. Like, it is your job to figure it out. And again, the Finnish coach doesn't seem to care. Like, the Finnish coach, he's like, I'm not waiting on UC Saros' confidence. The guys here don't have a choice, because the guys here have paid Saros the money, given him the contract, and so now they have to hope it works out, or else they're all getting fired, and they know it. But I just, personally, I wouldn't want to be in that spot, and I wouldn't be in that spot. Boy, the text line is mad at Willie and Derek. Oh, my goodness. The text line. I'll just read you one in the text line about, congratulations, D. Mason, Willie, and all the other Saros fanboys from last summer. Ian, that's you. You were on their team. Congratulations to D. Mace, Willie D, and all the other Saros fanboys from last summer. The Preds had the chance to grow and develop with a young, talented prospect and Askarov, but instead Trotz made his worst decision yet. We know what Saros is, and now we're screwed for the next 8 years. Bravo.
Well, this is not a grow and develop team this year. If you had a grow and develop goalie with the team that they brought in, everyone would be yelling.
I think if they had done what I had suggested, and again, this was before Stamkos and Marchessault, but if they had traded away UC Saros at the draft and received a first-round pick, or who cares? They would have traded away Saros at the draft, and they would have basically said, Askarov's the guy, but he might not be ready this year, so Lankinen will start. We'll re-sign him. Lankinen starts the year as the number one goalie, and then we'll see how Askarov progresses. I don't think there'd be any complaining. Unless Lankinen crapped the bed as bad as Saros has this year. And the way I listen to everybody else tell it is apparently if Lankinen was on this team, he would be doing as poorly as Saros. I just don't believe that. Let's go to Joey and Gallatin, who's up next on Saros. Thank you for calling. Joey, go ahead.
I appreciate taking my call. Excuse my voice. It's a little rough. But so I was first off want to say I've always been a big fan of UC because, he's not Pekka 2.0, first off, size-wise, everything else, but he's a great guy. Of course, we know in Nashville, everyone uses the excuse of, well, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. Well, every year there's an excuse. Oh, well, he starts off slow, but then he picks it up. Well, here in the last year or so, he's shown like there's something off. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know what's going on. You can't blame it on injury because they moved around well. He's one of the faster, goalies in the league because he's, smaller. Well, I keep getting all these excuses, I get on Facebook in the big Nashville Preds fan pages and I'm like, hey, dude, hey, guys, what are we going to do about Deuce? We just signed him we're about to sign him this huge contract, and he's continuing to show us that he isn't fitting the bill. He's not keeping up. And I get blown away by, oh, you don't know hockey. It's the defense. And, I got this huge description of how hockey works. And I'm like, when it comes down to it, this could be possibly one of the biggest mistakes in league in our organizational history. And it's
so
funny
I
that
would not say, Joey,
year.
I agree with about 95% of what you're saying, and I appreciate your call. I wouldn't say it's going to be like one of the greatest mistakes in league history. It's going to be something that gets somebody fired. Like, at the end of the day, if Saros does not turn this around and does not win playoff series, like, this guy doesn't need to be, a top 13 goalie in the league. Like, he needs to be winning a Vezina, because that's what the expectations are and everything else. Like, if that's the case, like, if he does not turn this thing around, people will lose their jobs because of it. And that's just sports. Like, that's just how it works. But I will say this. I'm getting sick and tired of the, you don't understand the game. I'm like, well, then I guess the Finland coach doesn't understand the game. And then I guess the announcers don't understand the game. The only people that seem to understand the game are the people who seem to say that Saros never does anything wrong. Again, this analytics stat, which I couldn't give a rat's ass about, but the nerds love it. This goals saved above expected. Ian, I don't even know how we figure this stat out, but the nerds love it. Do they not?
Some do.
So it's supposed to be kind of like the QBR. It's supposed to take what the goalie, like, okay, here's how the goalie actually performed. Here are the analytics. Here's how the other night at Chicago, Saros gave up minus 299 goals above expected. That means that he allowed 3 goals that a replacement level goalie would not have allowed. 3. And then I was told, oh, you don't understand the game. I'm like, well, but this is your stat. This isn't my stat. My stat is the guy doesn't stop any shots. I look up and give him 6 goals to Chicago, and I watched the third period last night. Well, you don't understand the game. But then I take your stat, Mr. I understand the game, and no, we don't count that. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. More of your phones on this next. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
Guys, oh my goodness, Big Joe coming to you from the Gaylord Opryland Hotel, where the National Wild Turkey Federation and Convention is taking place. This is their 49th convention, and this place is absolutely packed. I'm not sure I've ever seen it this crowded. More than 72,000 people came here last year, and for good reason. More than 500 exhibitors will be here. Great nightly events featuring top singer and songwriters from Nashville. It is one of the largest consumer shows in the entire country. It's also where conservation and hunting's most devoted supporters come together to celebrate healthy habits and healthy harvests. It's all day today on Friday, all day Saturday. Veterans are free. Kids under 10 are free as well. So come hang, come out here and see us. We're live with the National Wild Turkey Federation Convention at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel. Big Joe, 1025, 1063, The Game.
As I think ahead to Saturday, I wonder if the Finns come back in a real critical game against Sweden, if they come back with Saros, or if they go with Kevin Lankinen. And Lankinen has just had an amazing season out in Vancouver. And with, a 6th spot up on the board here, it has to give you a little bit of a thought to whether you go with Saros again.
Ian, what'd you make of that? Do you count that as Ray Ferraro calling Saros to be benched by Finland? Or do you think that was Ray I'm not going to say it, but...
I don't think he was trying to coach the team for the guy, but I think he was just throwing it out there. Hey, don't be surprised if they make a change.
Yeah. I think they said after the game, the coach said that the Finnish coach said that he and the goalie coach talked about it and decided, we'll leave Saros back out there. But it was a total train wreck. One texter says, would there be anyone in the league who would be willing to take on Saros in his $8 million contract with a no movement clause and still give Nashville something decent in return? If so, who? So I think the answer to that is no. First of all, I don't think anybody's calling on Saros because they don't think he's available because he just signed an 8-year contract with a no move. But that is the contract that somebody else, if they had acquired Saros last year, probably would have given him. So here's what I would say. And this, you people are going to think this is a crazy hot take. But it is Fireball Hot Take Friday, so what the hell? I would be willing to trade Vegas's first-round pick in order to get somebody to take Saros. And again, he may go out there and get back to, again, people would say Vezina form, but considering that he's never won the Vezina, I won't go and say Vezina form, but he can get back to playing really, really well, and it wouldn't shock me because the whole nature of goalies, it's a fickle environment, so that could, and I'd be fine with it. I just want the money, I want the freedom, and I just don't think goalie's that important. I think that's another thing we need to address that we've talked about time and time again. When you can win with Darcy Kemper as your starting goalie, it's really not that important. The Rangers don't win playoff series because of Shesterkin. He's great. But again, it's how many cups does he have? So I think goalie's overrated, and I want the money back. And I not only want the money back, but then for all you people that, oh, no, it's not Saros, it's the defense, then I can go spend money on the defense, which is what I'll go do. But to answer your question, do I think this time last year you could have traded Saros, you could have gotten something good for him, but probably not something great? Because, again, the other teams in the league, I don't think value the goalie position that much. That's why, what did Markstrom go for, Ian? A first, straight up? And I think Olmark maybe went for a first. And, that's it. That's the goal, a first-round pick.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so that's what you would have gotten, a first-round pick. The end. But it would have been a better first-round pick than the Vegas first-round pick, which is going to be the last pick of the first round this upcoming season, which is what you got for Askarov. Although you did get the Edstrom kid in as well with the Askarov deal. But I would attach the Vegas first-round pick to get rid of Saros. And then I'd play the Annunen kid, and I'd go get somebody. And if he sucks, then I'd go get somebody else. Because I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do not think it's that hard. But I'm sure, again, that if you went over there where they've got the Saros virus, where they think he's the best goalie in the league, if you were to go over there and say, Jared Stillman says you guys should attach a first-round pick to get out of this contract, they would say, does he not know UC Saros is one of the greatest goalies ever? Even though he leads the NHL in losses right now. Wes and Hermitage says, one of the top headlines at ESPN, Finland sent Saros after giving up 6 and lost to the U.S. This is a big deal to Preds fans. He's been way off his game this year, but so is the entire team. Is this just a year-off thing, or is Saros just a replacement-level player? Again, he's never won a playoff series. Didn't play well in the Arizona Bubble Series. Didn't play well last year against Vancouver. Add that to the pile, and you decide. So I guess Saros has been officially benched. Is that the yesterday after the game they said they'd talk about it? What we'll talk about it means is we haven't told him he's benched, so we'll tell him he's benched, and then we'll tell you. You see this in the NFL. Quarterback gets benched or quarterback looks awful. Then on Monday, they asked the coach, and the coach says we're working through it. But the truth is the coach just hasn't told the quarterbacks, like, hey, Bobby, you're out. Johnny, you're in. And then that's exactly what will happen on Wednesday is they'll talk to him on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, the coach will announce that Bobby's the quarterback. Jeez. Oof. One texter says that Saros' contract ends in 2023. I will be 44 years old. I've thought about this. I will be 44 years old when UC Saros' contract ends. Unbelievable. And I could not see that just the pants offing that came with Saros. Like, oh no, he's Rene 2.0 and you guys don't understand. So maybe Saros will get in there in the final game for Finland. I don't know. I don't think so, but we shall see. But I do, by the way, I said this earlier, I want to tip my cap to the Four Nations because I think it's incredible. 615-737-1025. I'm going to let the text line pick what our next topic's going to be because I didn't think that I'd do an hour talking about Saros' terrible performance last night. So I've got something that Jeffrey Simmons did that freaking drives me up a wall. Just freaking grinds my gears. That's the first thing. The other thing is, hold on. If Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Titan, there's something I've got to understand. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of clarity around it, which means one of three things happened. So it's either the Rodgers rabbit hole or what Simmons did that pissed me off. You all pick in the text line, and we'll come back and discuss it. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. And let me tell all the fine folks out there, while I have your attention, let's talk a little basketball. That's right. Tune in tonight baseball. Tune in tonight for 1025 The Game for Vandy baseball as the Commodores take on Grand Canyon. Pregame begins at 6:30, first pitch at 7. And coverage is also available at 1025 The Game's app and at the GameNashville.com. And let me tell all the fine folks that the Game National Sports Network is your home for NASCAR. Sunday, tune in for the Daytona 500 on Sports Talk 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. and on 1025 The Game following the Vandy baseball game. Coverage of the Daytona 500 presented by Green Trees and the newcumberland.com.
Hey guys, Big Joe here on this Friday afternoon. I am at the place to be for Friday night, and all day Saturday. Coming to you from the Gaylord Opryland Hotel where the National Wild Turkey Federation and Convention is taking place. This is their 49th convention, and this place is absolutely packed. Last year, more than 72,000 people came to this convention, and I'm sure they're going to top that number this year. More than 500 exhibitors are here. The great nightly events featuring some of Nashville's top singers and songwriters. This is one of the largest consumer shows in the entire country. And this is where conservation and hunting's most devoted supporters come together to celebrate healthy habits and healthy harvests. All day rest today on Friday, and then of course all day Saturday. Come out here and see us. Veterans are free and kids under 10 are free. Come out and see us and say hi. This is Big Joe at the National Wild Turkey Federation Convention for 1025 and 1063 The Game.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. We are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. So I told the audience, I said, you get to pick either this latest Aaron Rodgers reporting that doesn't make any sense, and there is a lot of chatter that Aaron Rodgers may be the next quarterback of the Titans, or this Jeffrey Simmons just up my rear end, just I just sometimes I can't. And I said, you guys pick. And whichever one you pick will do. And the text line is picked. Jeffrey Simmons. So Jeffrey Simmons went on, Ian, is this Deebo Samuel's podcast?
That is correct.
Okay, so Deebo Samuel, whose team doesn't even want him anymore. Deebo Samuel has a podcast, and Jeffrey Simmons went on it. And he voiced exactly who he wants the Titans to take with the first overall pick. Here's what the leader of the team said on the Deebo Samuel show.
What you think y'all need? I'm going to start on the defense side. I think we need another edge guy. That guy from Penn State, Abdul Carter.
Dog.
He's a dog.
He's a dog.
He's a dog. So I for sure think we need an edge.
You're a defensive guy. You say you need a DM.
I need an outside linebacker.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeffrey Simmons thinks the Titans should draft Abdul Carter with the first pick. Number one, I don't give a rat's ass what Jeffrey Simmons thinks the Titans need. That is the last person whose opinion I care about. I laughed out loud last year when Rand Carthon said during the preseason in the broadcast booth, he said, Jeff came into the office and said, our right side of our offensive line's really coming together. And I said, oh, yes, Jeffrey Simmons and all the great talent evaluating he's done in his career. But what I do care about is the fact that Jeffrey Simmons thinks it's his place to voice those opinions. Jeffrey, you need to learn how to get to the quarterback. You need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about who this team needs to draft. But this is the terrible culture that the Titans have built under Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan, which is do whatever you want to do. Live your life however you want to live it. It's as undisciplined and as unbuttoned up as it has been since I have been on the radio covering the Titans, which is the last 10 years. I'll never forget after that horrific defensive 2020 season. I believe they were 28th in the league, couldn't get a pass rush, couldn't stop anybody, couldn't anything. And after the season was over, after they lost to the Ravens in the playoffs, Ryan Tannehill had his exit interview press conference. And Ryan Tannehill kept being asked questions about, do you want Corey Davis back? Do you want Jonnu Smith back? Do you want the team to invest more on defense? Do you want that? And every time his answer was, yeah, that's up to J-Rob and Vrabes, because that's what you say. That's what the players say. You don't say, I think we should get rid of this guy. I think we should get rid of that guy. When's the last time Derrick Henry voiced his opinion about what the team should do in the offseason? The only time Derrick Henry made any comments about the trajectory of the Titans was on his way out the door after he had already left the team. That was it. The day they fired Vrabel, he was asked about his situation and said, it looks like they're going in a different direction, and I'll go in a different direction, and that's okay. That's it. Because that's what you do. And I also go back to this idea that Jeffrey Simmons is going to sit up there and say, yeah, we need an edge rusher. Boy, I'm sure that sits well with Harold Landry. Hey, the leader of the team, I'm busting my ass next to this guy. The leader of the team, or I guess, the leader, the guy they say is the leader, he just got out and said they need to replace me. Boy, I'm sure that makes Harold Landry feel good. This reminds me of something Bill Belichick said years ago. Floyd actually told me this story, and then I read it in Seth Wickersham's book. And Ian, you know how these stories go. Like when somebody remembers a story, especially an old guy like Floyd, like it's probably 80% of the story or 70% of the story. Like he remembers the main point of it, but not the exact.
Sure.
He told me years ago that there was a team meeting he was in one time where Belichick, some guy said something like, we have the best defensive line in the league. And that Belichick got in front of the entire team And he said, have you ever evaluated defensive linemen? And the guy said, no. He said, have you ever coached defensive linemen? He said, no. Bill says, so you need to shut up because you don't know what you're talking about. Years later, I'm reading this Seth Wickersham book. Apparently, Brandon Merriweather was a rookie safety. And he said in the Boston Herald that it was an honor to cover Wes Welker, who's one of the greatest slots in the NFL. This is according to the Seth Wickersham book. Quote, in a team meeting the next day, Belichick read the quote aloud and said, Brandon Merriweather thinks Wes Welker is one of the best slot receivers in the league. How the F would Brandon Merriweather know? You don't know anything, so shut the F up. Again, that is buttoning it up. That is what disciplined organizations do. Ryan Tannehill, again, not the greatest leader in the world, is posting Celsius ads on his Instagram when he should be at OTAs. But even Ryan Tannehill knew, like, hey, when they ask me questions about the Rodgers, oh, no, that's J-Rob and Vrabes. You never, ever put yourself in that spot. And yet, here's Jeffrey Simmons because the Titans, there's no punishment with the Titans. Jeffrey Simmons threw a punch in practice, didn't get kicked out. There's no punishment with the Titans. L'Jarius Sneed, I'm pretty sure they're lying about his injury and the true severity of what it was. But there's no punishment. That's the culture the Titans have built under Brian Callahan. And this is what happens. This isn't just a Titans thing. This isn't just Titans specific. But this is what happens in sports. When you have a mean coach and you fire the mean coach and then you go out because you want a nice coach. And then everybody just runs all over the program. Guys aren't accountable. Guys aren't doing their jobs. Guys are voicing opinions when they shouldn't be. That's how you get hung over being a 3-win football team after you beat Houston because their kicker misses a 28-yard field goal. That's how. And so I got to say this. I like Brian Callahan. I hope things work out for Brian Callahan. But I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not looking good for Brian Callahan. The terrible first season, the guy who hired him has already been fired. He made almost no changes to his coaching staff, which to me is basically him saying, my coaching staff is good enough, which I don't believe. And now Jeffrey Simmons is out there saying who this team should draft and who this team needs to take, what these team needs are. I remember years ago, I did a Q&A for Pepsi with Delaney Walker, and I didn't know what to expect. It was at a pizza restaurant. I walked in, and I guess if you had scanned the QR code on your Frito chips, you got this chalk talk with Delaney Walker. It was actually very entertaining. And so we're in this room, there's no cameras, and there's no nothing, and I'm sitting there hosting the Q&A with Delaney, and this was in the middle of the 2018 season. And Delaney said, he goes, yeah, I think we need some more receivers. He's like, we got me, and we got Corey Davis. And then he looks and he goes, but we, he goes, we have Taywan and Tajay in them, but we need another receiver. And I was like, damn, because players don't do that. You don't do that. You don't come out and say who your team should draft. And so, again, I don't care what Jeffrey Simmons thinks. If he wants to draft Carter, if he wants to draft Hunter, I mean, hell, I want him to draft Carter. If they use the number 1 pick, I want it to be Abdul Carter. But the fact that Simmons, thinks that he can go on this podcast and say this, and that there won't be somebody at Titans HQ that's like, son, shut up. We don't need your opinion on this. You need to focus on you. You need to, is exactly the problem with the culture of the Titans. It's a terrible culture. It's the same thing as DeAndre Hopkins throwing a pissing fit on the sidelines of the Buffalo game and getting his wish the next day while the coach comes out and says there's an injury when clearly there wasn't. So, I mean, I hate to say it, but that one when I saw that Jeffrey Simmons is commented on, oh God, this guy, just shut up. Like, you're not the director of player personnel. You've never evaluated talent in your life. But I'm sure Harold Landry loves it. Hey, this guy wants to replace me. 615-737-1025. Corey Curtis will join us from News 2 next on the program. If you want to weigh in on the show, it's Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Yes, it's Fireball season. It's love season. It's Valentine's Day. And if you want to be a great Valentine, you need to get your hubby a bottle of Fireball. That's right. Or tonight, if you're out for that very romantic Valentine's Day dinner, make it Fireball whiskey. Goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. There is no better way to celebrate your weekend and celebrate your true love than with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Ignite the night. Please do responsibly. Be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Stillman and Company, let's give away some tickets. I'm in a good mood. Be caller 5 right now, and you want a pair of tickets to see Belmont's women's basketball team as they take on Drake at the Curb Center this Saturday. Tip off at 4 o'clock. Good luck on that front. So again, the Jeffrey Simmons thing about him voicing the opinion of they should take Abdul Carter. We need edge help. Boy, I'm sure Arden Key and Harold Landry really love that one. That bothers me because I don't think Simmons should be voicing those opinions. The Aaron Rodgers thing is kind of fascinating. Somebody texted me today and they said, oh my God, if the Titans go after Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to be so angry. And I said, hold on, did I miss something? Is there something out there? Apparently, Jeremy Fowler listed the Titans as a potential team for Aaron Rodgers. That's because there's 6 teams out there that need quarterbacks. So you're going to be on the list. Corey Curtis joins us from News 2 here on the program. Corey, let's start there. Any interest in Aaron Rodgers, and what do you make of this latest drama and gossip with the Jets?
No, I would have no interest in Aaron Rodgers whatsoever, because you're trying to build a team and a culture, and he's clearly an individual who's going to operate by his own beat, and they don't need that at this time. And I don't see how he's a match for them either. I mean, he's 41 years old. Why does he want to go to a team with 3 wins?
Corey, I'm going to do what I feel like a lot of people do when it comes to me, which is they say, Jared, what are we going to do at quarterback? And so I know what I would do, and I think you know what I would do. But when somebody asks you, Corey Curtis, Corey, what are we going to do at quarterback? What's your answer?
My answer is to follow the Mike Borgonzi path of Kansas City.
Oh, God.
And that is the bridge until you find the guy of the future. They went with Alex Smith until they got Patrick Mahomes. And if I'm the Titans, I'm probably looking at, Derek Carr or Sam Darnold until they can find the one that they believe can get them where they need to go. Now, if they think that that's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, then they need to take that person. I'm not certain that they believe that, or if many people believe that those guys are worth the first overall pick, but it only takes one team to believe that. So that's my guess. That is my guess, is they go with a veteran bridge to get them through the next couple of years.
Okay, so you brought up Darnold and Carr. We'll push that to the side for a second. You are still a Heisman Trophy voter, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that means that you probably had to watch enough college football to be able to vote for Travis Hunter or vote for Cam Ward or vote for Shedeur Sanders. So do you think Sanders or Ward are the guys?
I don't think Sanders is. I think Sanders is a good college player, and worthy of being drafted, obviously, in the NFL draft. But I don't think he's a top 5, top 10. Look, I mean, you're talking about the first pick of the draft, okay? And would you have drafted him over any of the 6 guys who went in the first round last year?
So I didn't watch enough of them. Like, I didn't watch enough of the 6 guys last year's tape.
Okay, the top
to have an
3 you would
opinion
not
about
have taken
J.J.
over.
McCarthy. But I don't see an NFL starting. I don't see an NFL franchise quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. No.
Yeah, neither do I. And that doesn't mean he can't develop into a good quarterback, but you're talking about the first pick of the draft. He needs to be Andrew Luck. He needs to, have the swag of a Caleb Williams coming out, and he doesn't. He doesn't. Cam Ward, to me, is more electric, more accomplished. I watch him and I see more playmaking ability, and I can be talked into that more.
Corey Curtis with us on the program. Okay, so now to Darnold and Carr. You already said no on Rodgers.
No.
I don't. Where does this Carr stuff come from? Because with Carr and Stafford, I keep hearing people bring them up, and I keep thinking if the Rams were right there with the Eagles. Like, if you move on from Stafford, you are no longer right there with the Eagles. And when it comes to Derek Carr, why are the Saints getting rid of him? Like, who's their quarterback going to be?
Well, number one, with Stafford, who of course would make the Titans better, he's 37, and so why does he want to go to a 3-win Titan team? I don't think that's something that he, who knows? I mean, he may have his own personal reasons. He played with Callahan earlier in his career, but I can't see him really pining to come to Nashville to try to help the Titans rebuild, so that when he's 40, they can move on and they might actually be good by then. But Carr, look, Kellen Moore embraced him as a quarterback in the NFL, not as his quarterback. He's a new coach with a team with horrible cap problems that they've got to figure out. And, he's an older quarterback. He's 34, I believe, 33, going to be 34. And he may be ready to move on to somebody else. I mean, the Saints have big questions to answer, and there's plenty of smoke around Derek Carr, possibly being available.
Okay, so if it came down to, 35, let's just say $35 million. $35 million for Darnold or $35 million for Carr, who would you rather pay?
I'd rather pay Derek Carr.
Really? Why?
4 4,000-yard seasons, 3 more where he's just about 100 yards away, about a 67% career passer. He's played at least 15 games every year of his career except for last year. He's played with Callahan. They know what they're getting. And he's just much more proven as a more consistent player than Darnold is at this point.
Isn't he kind of more proven, though, as like not very good?
I mean, look, he hasn't been in the Super Bowl. He hasn't played many playoff games, so he hasn't done a lot of that. But he is proven to be productive. He is proven to put points on the board. He is proven to not turn it over a ton. And look, we're not talking about a guy who's going to take the Titans to the Super Bowl. We're talking about a guy who can run their offense, keep their players on the field where they can actually improve. And I think that's what I'm looking for. Whereas, Sam Darnold's only really good season was on a very good team with very good players around him. And he also came up really short in the 2 biggest games. And you're asking for my decision between the two. He's my decision. If the decision is Sam Darnold, so be it. But I think there's more proven with what you're going to get from Carr.
Do you think that they are interested in Ward or Sanders? Or do you think that, again, the generational comments that Chad Brinker made that you were in the room for, which I think have been getting completely taken out of context?
Yeah, I do too. I mean, that's what you say around draft time, right? I mean, everybody. Right. I mean, look, they have to look at those guys, and they have to look at them hard. Because if you pass on those guys and one of them does wind up being the guy, and you got egg on your face for a whole new other reason. So, I mean, they certainly have to do their homework on those guys, and they have to figure it out. They've got to do all the interviews. They've got to do all the tests that they can to make sure that they're not, because that's what workouts are for. That's what the combine is for. That's what the interviews are for. You've got those times, and you could still go Darnold or Carr and draft one of those guys. That's not illegal. And so they can make that decision. But, look, you don't want to be picking first again. So, you got to get this one right. And they're a team with so many needs that they can't afford to miss on this one. We've seen what happens when you miss repeatedly in the first few rounds of the draft, and they can't miss here.
Corey Curtis is with us on the program. I do wonder this front, because there's one thing that's bothering me that I don't think has made its way out to the mainstream of kind of the Titan discussion, but I feel like if I make a big deal about it, it will. And I'm not looking to make this a big deal, but I do think that this needs to be discussed. I have a lot of envy around the NFL when I see some of these defensive coordinator hirings. I mean, even Matt Patricia, who I like as a guy, but I think might be a terrible coach. Matt Patricia was hired the other day by Ohio State. Brandon Staley is going to be hired by New Orleans to run their defense. Dennis Allen has been hired, I believe, by the Bears to run their defense. Matt Eberflus has been hired by the Cowboys to run their defense. And so there's all these guys that have run defenses before that are basically with these offensive guru coaches just handed the defense and they say, here you go. Wade Phillips was that for Sean McVay when he got started. Kyle Shanahan farms out the ball in San Francisco on the defensive side, and they went out and brought Robert Saleh back. I'm not convinced Denard Wilson's a good enough coordinator or that Brian Callahan should be diverting his attention. If he's going to call the plays and run the offense, should be diverting his attention away from defense. I'm not saying I was rooting for Denard Wilson to get fired, but I really was, because I think they need a veteran defensive coordinator just running the defensive side of the ball, and yet they didn't go that route. Corey, I think that's a problem waiting to to happen. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, we talked before about, bringing in a veteran special teams coordinator, because that everyone they had brought in was new GM, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. I mean, everything was new. And so they're bringing in, a special teams coordinator who has experience now. And I know Brian also has said that he needs to spend more time with the defense, that I think he felt like that was a mistake, or I don't know, mistake, but just an unavoidable step because he was so involved with the offense that first year that he needs to spend more time with the defense. We can look at the defense. I think, what were they, number 2 in yards per game allowed, in the obviously the pass defense, was strong at times in pass numbers, but the sack numbers were not good. The turnover numbers were not good. And those were 2 things we were really looking for, this season to be improved. And so they've got to figure out a way to dial both of those up, either with the coaching staff or with players, and, or maybe a combination of, but they've got to have an answer to dialing that up, because just because you're a number 2 off defense in yards doesn't mean you're a number 2 defense. They still gave up like 28 points a game. They couldn't get the big stop generally when they needed it to win games. I mean, as bad as things were, there were several games this year where that defense could have slammed the door and won a football game. I think to the Jaguars game at home, they let Mac Jones go right down the field in the fourth quarter to win the game. I mean, what is that? That's not good enough. That's not good enough. So I think it's fair to question, Denard Wilson. I think there's enough to like about Denard Wilson to say we're going to run it back. But I think it's a fair criticism and question when you see the success of a guy like Vic Fangio going to the Eagles and they win the Super Bowl with a completely dominant defensive effort.
And not only that, you brought up the idea that Callahan says he needs to spend more time with the defense. I don't want him spending more time with the defense. I want him running the offense. That's why he was hired.
Yeah. But he's also
give
the
it
head
to a
coach.
veteran guy and get out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, that like I said, that's fair. And Denard's going to have to step it up this year. I think Denard is sharp. I can think that all I want. The proof's in the pudding. They've got to get it done. They've got to be better on the field. They've got to produce more. They've got to make more plays. They just don't make enough plays on either side of the ball that change the game.
Corey Curtis with us. Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's your hot take this week?
You probably already talked about it. And this doesn't mean that UC Saros can't be a good goalie again. He is not a good goalie right now. And when they get back from this Four Nations, they need to turn to Justus Annunen and make Juice the backup and spot start him until he gets his confidence back or whatever the heck is going on, because he's a sieve right now, and there's just no way around it.
Ian, cut that, baby. That is a take. I mean, hell, I want to trade Saros before his new contract kicks in, but I haven't even thought about that. Sitting his ass on the bench. Corey,
well, I mean,
well
he's
said.
Losing games. He's losing games.
Corey, you need to call in to the midday show and have that discussion with Willie, Adam, and Derek. But I agree. Okay. You're not going to get any complaint over here.
He might get it figured out in a month, but right now he does not have it figured out.
Corey Curtis, News 2, salute on this Fireball Hot Take Friday.
Okay.
Corey Curtis on our program. I mean, hey, that might be his best Fireball Hot Take of the year. It's early in the year, but right now we'll put that as the number one. Ian, we will cut that because we will get back to that because I do want to discuss that at some point. But I don't know how you feel about Will Levis, but I know how I feel about Will Levis. Well, Mel Kiper Jr. was one of his biggest supporters. What Mel has to say now about Will Levis. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
Hey folks, Big Joe here. Don't have any plans this weekend? Now you do. You need to come out here to the Gaylord Opryland Hotel, where the National Wild Turkey Federation and Convention is taking place. Last year, more than 72,000 people took this in, and it's packed here again and a lot of fun. This is one of the largest consumer shows in the entire country. Plus, you got more than 500 exhibitors all here and having a good time. This is where conservation and hunting's most devoted supporters come together to celebrate healthy habits and healthy harvest. It's taking place today and all day on Saturday as well. So come out here. Veterans are free. Kids under 10 are free. It's only $50, but if you're a National Wild Turkey Federation member, it's all free. This is the place you need to be. Come out here and have a good time. This is Big Joe for 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
What are the attributes you value most in the quarterback?
Well, you have to have the physical arm talent, obviously, to make every throw in the league. Accuracy, decision making, are big parts of it. The way you process coverages. The game's changed a little bit too, so having mobility, not just a pocket passer. And of course, the leadership part is a big part. They are the face of the franchise. They are your leader. They're the ones that are going to stand in front of the team every day, and they're going to follow them. And that's what they do. They follow, Patrick Mahomes. They follow Joe Burrow. That's what they do. That they set the tone. They're the most important, arguably the most important position in all of sports.
That was Mike Borgonzi. Boy, that's easy to say. When you haven't picked a quarterback, it's easy to say, quarterback is the most important thing, and you got to get it right. And you remember what Rand Carthon said. People get hired and fired every day in this league. based off of the quarterback position. And he was not wrong. And he got fired because his choice, Will Levis, wasn't very good. Now, if you go back to the 2023 draft, one person in particular loved Will Levis. Mel Kiper Jr. And so Mel Kiper Jr. on the First Take podcast was asked about what the Titans should do with the pick. And in the mock draft, Field Yates has the Titans drafting Travis Hunter with the first overall pick. Mel was asked his thoughts, and here's the soliloquy that Mel Kiper Jr. went on. And let me just say this. It's quite lengthy. Here's what Mel said.
Well, I think you have to figure out quarterbacks. I'm a Will Levis guy. I still hold out hope that Will Levis can be a quality starting quarterback in this league. I know you don't, and I know a lot of our viewers, listeners don't. I know a lot of Tennessee Titan fans don't, and a lot of them, the people that cover the NFL don't. And it's what you see. I understand what you saw last year was some mistakes and some inconsistency. And he was playing through a shoulder injury, but he had some great moments. I say great moments. He had some awful moments. We remember the Bears game, which was him just trying to make a play, flick it out, kicks it off, and and then the Jets game where he tried to get it to Spears. Guess what, Field? Had he gotten it to Spears, forget the Bears game, right? Had he gotten that ball to Spears? Oh, yeah, no. Oh, how many times they say no? Oh, great, right? It was one of those, it just didn't work, and it turned it over. They ended up missing out on 3 points. That didn't kill them in that game. What killed him in that game was some drop passes and missed opportunities after Will Levis kind of righted the ship. And that was a game where Brian Callahan went crazy about that one mistake. And it seemed like from that point on, it was, got into the mind of Will, then he got hurt, but he had a stretch where he only threw 2 interceptions and 7 touchdown passes. And his comment was after that last game before he got basically had the disaster against the Bengals and bench was, I played the cleanest game of my career, but yet Brian Callahan wasn't raving about it after the game. So Brian Callahan said, don't turn it over, but when you don't turn it over and play a clean game, that's not good enough either. So I think what happened was it gets into the mind of a young quarterback. Remember, it was his first year in this offense. First year with a lot of new pieces around him, and he had a right tackle, couldn't block anybody. That right tackle position was horrible. So you're behind the sticks. You got all these issues. You're playing with a shoulder injury. You got hit right before the end of the half in a game where you had to get shot up at halftime just to get back in the game. Yet we're gonna treat this quarterback like he's a 6-year veteran who's been in the same offense for 5 or 6 years. So I think that's unfair. To the point about the quarterback, I agree that you can't put all your hope and faith in Will Levis. He has not shown enough yet to do that.
Okay, so that was a lot from Mel Kiper Jr. He says, forget about the Bears game. Just forget about that. What if in the Jets game he got the ball to Tajay Spears? He got hurt. Mel used that. Also talked about his shoulder injury. Blame Brian Callahan. New offense and the right tackle position was terrible. I mean, Mel, that is a lot of reaching right there. And while I do agree with Mel's logic that the Titans did their best to ruin Will Levis, and make no mistake, they did, 2 things can be true. Levis can stink, and the Titans can be constructed poorly. And the belief of Levis, I thought, the way they just fawned over him, the coach, the GM, is an example of the Titans being constructed poorly. So here's the deal. The Titans are terrible. They weren't coached well. They were constructed without a plan. They draft guards and DTs with high picks. They signed the positions that they should be drafting. They relied on Arden Key, etc. But that doesn't mean that Will Levis didn't also contribute to the problem. And it doesn't mean that if they had a right tackle and if they had a better team and if they had a better coach, that Will Levis would be a success. Because at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but I think Will Levis might be too stupid to play quarterback in the NFL. And people are going to get upset when I say that, because I don't think he's stupid as a guy. I don't really know him as a guy, but as a football player, he's too stupid to play quarterback in the NFL. But Jared, he had good grades in college. That's not what I meant. What I mean is he's too stupid of a football player to ever be relied upon making good decisions. And Tom Brady said this before the start of the season, and I think that it needs to be repeated when talking about quarterback play in the NFL. And Tom Brady said, you can have all the offensive coaches in the world, a head coach, a coordinator, a play caller, everything. The line can make decisions, checks and audibles and things like that about what to do with their protection. And guys can run the right route. He said, as the quarterback, you are the last line of defense. You are the pen. Everybody else is the pencil. Because you can erase whatever the offensive coordinator calls something, you see a look you don't like, change the play. You're the quarterback. You're the one who's snapping the ball into the right play. And I just don't think Will Levis is ever going to be a smart enough football player to ever consistently be able to recognize what it is a defense is doing, to be able to know what it is he's supposed to be doing, and to, under pressure, be able to calmly decipher what the next decision is supposed to be. I don't think he's got it in him. Now, that doesn't change what Mel said about all the problems with this team and this organization. We talk about him every day. Again, he talked about how bad the right tackle was. Who was screaming about that all year? But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the Titans need to rely on Will Levis going forward. And look, I loved Anthony Richardson before the same draft. I'd argue I loved Richardson as much as Mel liked Levis. And I am a firm believer that the Indianapolis Colts ruined Anthony Richardson. Their plan for Anthony Richardson was, we're going to play him right away because we feel like we should. I don't know. That was their plan. It hasn't worked. My plan was Gardner Minshew's our starting quarterback. Richardson is going to sit the bench behind Gardner Minshew, and we will learn and we'll work on it every day. I said the big thing is you got to turn around, hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor 25 times a game. They got in a contract dispute with him. But guess what? Just because I loved Anthony Richardson, and I think my plan might have worked with Anthony Richardson, and it would have been night and day different from what the Colts did, that doesn't mean that I still have hope for Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. That ship has sailed. They've ruined him. It's over. I'm not holding up. You'll see. I'm not doing that. But I think because Mel was so in on Levis that he thinks there's actually still a chance that Will Levis might be a good football player. Again, just like with Anthony Richardson, that ship has sailed. Will Levis is too stupid of a football player to ever be able to play effective quarterback in the NFL. And he's now too damaged that he will never learn. So it's time to move on. Even though Mel's not wrong about all the things the Titans screw up. Now, the idea of forget about the Bears game, I'm not doing that. Also, what if he had completed rolling the ball on the ground to Spears? Give me a break with that. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So I hear TD say something that I do think is a fair question to ask. But I actually think that there is a difference. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, Fireball Hunting Friday, 1025, 106 for the game. Christopher Mad Dog Russo is our guest here. What do we think about these two quarterbacks in the draft, Sanders and Ward? And are you worried about the Dion effect if you draft Shedeur Sanders?
We saw both of them play an awful lot. I don't think Ward's gonna be that good. Okay, I would be. I saw him at Washington State prior. I don't love Ward, so that would make me nervous. Quarterbacks get always, they move up in the draft because they're quarterbacks and they're so important. But the last thing you want to do, look at the Jets with Zach Wilson, look at the Bears with Trubisky. The last thing you want to do is overplay your hand at that position, because then you waste a pick, you waste a couple of years of your team's development, because you got to give the guy a couple of years to see if he's any good. And if he turns out to be a bust, you wasted a second or a first pick on him. I would be very careful on drafting either one of those two guys with one of those top 3, 4, 5 picks.
Doggy Dog on the program last week at the Super Bowl, and he's like, I don't know. And most people are like, yeah, no for Sanders and Ward. I just can't. And TD asks a very good question, which is, why is it whenever we talk about the Titans drafting a quarterback, everybody, especially nationally, is like, oh, no, they can't do it. But nobody says that for Cleveland or for the Giants. And I think I know the answer. The Titans don't have to do any one thing because their general manager is new. And it sounds like Brinker has won the owner over to where she's going to consider everything that he was a part of as not his responsibility, and they couldn't give a rat's ass about this coach. So forget about the coach. They don't care about him. But as far as building the team, Mike Borgonzi can afford to lose next year. Well, I'm not sure that's where Joe Shane and Brian Dable in New York are. And so in New York, they got to get a quarterback, and they got to show progress, or else they're out. The owner has already said it. Well, again, here's the list of guys that are available. There's Sam Darnold. New York can't do him. I mean, he's already done New York. Doesn't work that way. Kirk Cousins. Not sure that really shows progress. Russell Wilson. Justin Fields. Now, maybe they could go with Fields. Daniel Jones can't do him. Tyrod Taylor can't do him. There's nobody they can get that doesn't have like that's not going to work in New York. They need a young quarterback that they win 7 games with, 8 games with, and they say, see, we're on our way. See, we're on our way. And then when it comes to the Browns, I don't think they can really sign a quarterback because they are already giving Deshaun Watson $46 million. So I really believe that Cleveland has to take a quarterback at number 2 because, again, they're paying 46 to Deshaun. So if you're paying 46 to Deshaun, can you pay 30 to Darnold? And now you're paying 76 million at the quarterback position next year? I mean, that doesn't seem very logical. And then with the Giants, they can't go with Darnold. He's already failed in New York. So they've got to go young too. And it sounds like most everybody I've talked to says Ward is above Sanders. So maybe there is some juice for the Giants to get to number 3 if you agree to take a little less than traditionally for a number 1 quarterback. But you're not handcuffed the way I feel like those other 2 teams are. I feel like those other 2 teams have to go young at quarterback if the Giants can't get Stafford, which I've got my own thoughts on as well when it comes to Stafford. We'll get into your phones, 615-737-1025. And then we will get to the Stafford thing because I don't understand all this. Like, I don't. We'll get to that next because it is a part of the carousel that has to be discussed. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
Hey guys, Big Joe here coming to you from the Gaylord Opryland Hotel where the National Wild Turkey Federation and Convention is taking place. This is where you need to be Friday night and all day Saturday. This is their 49th convention and the place is absolutely packed. They had more than 72,000 people come through the door last year. More than 500 exhibitors are on site with great nightly events featuring some of Nashville's top singers and songwriters. And this is one of the largest consumer shows in the entire country. The only name that they're missing is you. Come out this weekend. If you're a veteran, free admission. If you're under 10 years of age, free admission as well. The event is $50, but if you're a National Wild Turkey Federation member, it is absolutely free. Come out here and see where everybody's going and the good time that's happening right now at the National Wild Turkey Federation Convention at the Gaylord Opryland Resort. For 102.5, 106.3, this is Big Joe.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Today is going to be our Stillman and Company QB Carousel 1.0. Ian, do you think it's too early? Do you think we should wait for the Combine, or do you think it's just right for QB Carousel 1.0?
I think there should be at least a 1.0 before the Combine. At least one. Yeah.
So 1.0. As of right now, here's who is on the carousel. Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants, the Raiders, the Jets, the Steelers, and the Rams. And I am putting the Rams on the QB carousel. Now, I, for the life of me, cannot understand how Matthew Stafford is potentially available. The LA Rams moved heaven and earth in order to get Matthew Stafford. The LA Rams won a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback. Notice how I did not say Stafford won them the Super Bowl, but they did win a Super Bowl with him. The last 2 years, they have gotten hot at the end of the year, and they have played great in the playoffs, even in games they have lost, and Stafford gives them a chance. Stafford is not like Mahomes or Burrow, where he's going to find a way to win you almost every game, but he gives you a chance in pretty much every game. They were on the doorstep of knocking off the Eagles. If I had to say who I think the second best team going into the offseason is in the NFC, it would be the Rams. I think the Lions are bad on defense. They've lost both their coordinators. I think it's going to be tough for the Lions to recover. The Vikings, who knows what's going to happen with them at quarterback. The Commanders, prove to me you're not a one-hit wonder. But the Rams, I mean, I know the Rams, that they got some juice, Verse and Fisk on defense. And you know they're going to find receivers, and they'll get rid of Cooper Kupp, and they'll find somebody else. The same way they found Cooper Kupp, the same way they found Puka Nacua, they'll be fine. But who's going to play quarterback? And again, they were right there. A dome team from L.A. went on the road with the wildfires in their backyard and played toe-to-toe with Philadelphia in the snow. Perfect conditions in a dome. Kansas City couldn't play toe-to-toe with Philadelphia. Washington couldn't play toe-to-toe with Philadelphia. So the Rams, in my opinion, are the second best team in the NFC. Why would they get rid of Matthew Stafford? But at the Super Bowl, all anybody could talk about was about how, oh no, there's something there. I was told by somebody who would know better than I would that the problem is not Matthew Stafford, but it's Matthew Stafford's wife, who's pushing you're not appreciated, you're not supported, they don't treat you right. And that's what's led to this crossroads that the Rams and Stafford are clearly headed for. And I was listening to the discussion on ESPN, and Mike Greenberg was at the Super Bowl because he hosted his show there, and then he hosted the Countdown show there. So he was at the Super Bowl, and he was in some of the same places I was. And here's what he said, and then what Tannenbaum, who, again, former general manager, Tannenbaum, this to me is the common sense part of this Stafford and the Rams thing. Here's what Greeny said and Tannenbaum's reaction.
To make sure everyone is quite clear on what's going on here, Stafford should be getting paid a heck of a lot more money than he is due to be getting paid this coming season. Maybe they work that out with the Rams and this becomes a non-issue. If they don't, then the big talk, please, this is not going on the bottom line. I'm not reporting anything because I don't know anything. I'm merely telling you what I heard all over the streets of New Orleans is Stafford to the Giants and Aaron Rodgers to the Rams. That's what I was hearing.
Yeah, that makes no sense. You just said it, Greedy. When you look at the game, when you look at it, agree.
I didn't say it. I just heard it.
It makes no sense though. You just said it though. Like the Rams gave the Eagles by far the most competitive game. They were 20 yards away. If Bo Leonard didn't cut Jalen Carter free, they probably win the game. Like they could run the ball, they could throw it. Stafford just turned 37 a couple days ago. I think he has a couple good years left. And if I'm the Rams, like the honest, sober evaluation is they have crushed it on the draft with these young defensive players. And why would you, like, literally, you're 20 yards away from being the Super Bowl champs on the road. Why would you not run it back?
I mean, I am in everything that they said. I am in total agreement with, including what Greeny said, which is on the streets in New Orleans, the discussion was the Rams are tired of Stafford's wife. And that Stafford's wife is the one who's kind of pushing this, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, anger towards the organization. You know, she's looking at these other quarterbacks.
More of a frustration, right?
Sure. These other quarterbacks are making $50 and $60 million, and he's due to make $26 million or whatever it is. And what I was told by somebody who would know was that, at least the way it was told to me about a week ago today, was Matthew isn't the Stafford who's causing the problems with the Rams, from what I was told. Now, again, when it comes to the Rams, I can't get over this idea that Cup was Super Bowl MVP. You went around, paid him. The Rams go out of their way to pay people so that they don't have these problems. And this is the hill you're going to die on, which is Stafford. And then let's go to the Giants. You're going to go to the Giants? Like, that's the GM's on the hot seat, coaches on the hot seat. They have two good players on offense, the left tackle and the receiver, who's a second-year player, and he's kind of a mouthy second-year player. The defense was a train wreck. You're going to leave the Rams where, again, you've got 1, 2, 3 years left. You're going to leave the Rams to go to the Giants. And then who's the Rams quarterback going to be? Like, I like Sam Darnold. You all know that. But right now, if I was on the cusp of the Super Bowl, and I feel like they were, given how close they were to Philadelphia, you're better off with Stafford than you are with Darnold. And again, I'm a Darnold guy. Now, that Greeny thing about Aaron Rodgers to the Rams, I did not hear that. That is a hot take.
He doesn't want to go to California again.
I mean, look, I think Aaron Rodgers may go wherever anybody will have him.
Maybe,
and that's why I think the Titans might be in play for Aaron Rodgers, is, again, this idea of anybody will have him. So the common sense in me, like the football common sense, is there's no even reason for talking about Stafford. The Rams will ultimately pay him. They'll give him a roster bonus. They'll do something, you know, for Cockta with the cap. And oh yeah, we deferred money to whatever. They'll do it. And then Stafford will take home $46 million this year, which is probably what he deserves, probably a little less than he deserves. He'll take home $46 million this year, and he'll be the Rams quarterback for the next couple of years. That's the common sense in me. But what everybody was saying in New Orleans is, no. This might be a real issue. And the Giants did just hire, I believe it was Stafford's, Ian, am I correct, this brother-in-law?
I did not see that. I'll try and look.
So I believe the Giants just hired Matthew Stafford's brother-in-law to be their quarterback's coach, which Adam Schefter said, it doesn't mean they're going for Stafford, but it doesn't mean they're not going for Stafford either. Some real insight there, by the way, from Adam Schefter. So they got to be on the carousel. We have to put the Rams on the carousel, even though this doesn't make any sense to me.
Chad Hall. Yeah. Assistant quarterbacks coach.
Do we know if Stafford's sister is married to Chad Hall, or if Kelly Stafford's sister is married to Chad Hall?
I do not know that. It just says Hall is Stafford's brother-in-law. But I can look for some more.
Interesting. 615-737-1025. Add them to the carousel. Now the Aaron Rodgers stuff. So there is something. So the Titans are listed as a team for Aaron, and I think there's a reason for that. I want to get to that next. Plus, it's either somebody did some pretty shoddy reporting, or an organization is truly run by a bunch of seventh graders. And it could be either or. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025 here on our program. Nashville's best deal this week is 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals now to get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company while supplies last.
I want to look a little closer at how we got here, right? Because obviously we learned on Sunday that the Jets were moving on from Aaron Rodgers today, becoming official. My understanding, though, is this was really the product of several conversations with the Jets and Rodgers. And from what I am told, there was no ultimatums made to him. It wasn't like, and I know there was a report, it's like, well, the Jets don't want Aaron Rodgers to do the Pat McAfee show, and if he agrees not to, then we'll bring him back. It wasn't like that. Like, first of all, I don't think the Jets really care that he's on the Pat McAfee show, honestly. It probably just affects the PR department. Doesn't really affect anyone else. It's New York. There are plenty of distractions elsewhere. It was really more like, well, if you go on that, could you maybe use a little more discretion? And they can't tell him to show up to OTAs. That's not allowed, but it's like, we'd like you to be around more. And it really seemed like over the course of several discussions, Aaron Glenn, the new head coach, and Darren Muji and Aaron Rodgers all became clear this was just not the direction to go. And I think by the time that they had Aaron Rodgers come to New Jersey and really talk face-to-face, it was clear from both sides, that this was not going to work. So they are all moving on.
That was Ian Rappaport talking about the Diana Russini report, which we brought up 2 days ago on the show, that I was very concerned with. I didn't understand. So Diana Russini put out on her podcast that the Jets told Aaron Rodgers, hey, no more Pat McAfee, and I need you to go to OTAs, which, to Rappaport's point, is totally against the collective bargaining agreement. You cannot say that. But that's what was reported by Diana Russini. Just because Diana Russini reports it doesn't mean that it's not true. But so Diana puts out there that the Jets want Rodgers at OTAs, and the Jets, want him to stop doing the McAfee show. And a lot of people heard that and said, Aaron wouldn't stop doing the McAfee show, so that's why the Jets dumped him. But I never really bought that, and I never really understood that. And I said this on Wednesday. I go, so I need to know, did the Jets sit down with Aaron and say, hey, Aaron, here's the deal. We need you at OTAs. We need you to stop doing the McAfee show. And if not, you can't be our quarterback. And Aaron looked at them and said, to hell with you. I'll do the McAfee show. Because if Aaron doesn't want to go to OTAs, or Aaron won't discuss his media appearances and how that affects the team, well, I got a problem with that too. Or did the Jets go to Aaron and say, hey, we want you here for OTAs. We want you to stop doing the McAfee show, anticipating that Aaron would say no. But when they went to Aaron, Aaron said, sure. And then because they didn't want him anyways, they were like, oh, well, we don't want you anyways. And I don't know the answer to this. But what Ian Rappaport is clearing up is, and again, who knows with Rappaport, because we've caught him making up crap too. But what Rappaport is reporting is that the way Diana Russini insinuated it all went down between Rodgers and the Jets is not actually what happened. Well, these details are very important. So either Diana Russini got it wrong, or the New York Jets, like a bunch of seventh graders, devised this plan of, here's what we're going to do, guys. We don't want Aaron back, but we really don't have any other better options at quarterback. So if we're going to show up next year for Daniel Jones at quarterback, we're going to have to make our fans feel like Aaron Rodgers is the one who screwed us and not the other way around. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Aaron. We're going to tell Aaron, we want you here for OTAs, and we're going to want you to give it the McAfee show. And we know Aaron. He loves his McAfee show and talking about all his conspiracy theories. And we know Aaron, and he loves taking his time off in OTAs. So when Aaron tells us to go F ourselves, then we'll say, well, we tried. Ready, break. And then they go to Aaron and they say, Aaron, we want you to show up for OTAs. Expecting Aaron to say, whoa, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I don't show up for OTAs. And instead, Aaron probably, okay. Okay. And we want you to stop doing the McAfee show too. Oh, this will get him. He won't expect this. And Aaron said, okay. Well, never mind. We don't want you anyways. And if it was a real organization like the Ravens or the Packers or the Steelers. If it was a real organization, then I would expect, or I would suspect in this case, that it's Rossini that got it wrong. But with the Jets, I mean, it could be legitimately possible that they thought that Aaron would not acquiesce to their demands and then got caught when he did. And I need to know the answers to this because, again, I'm doing the quarterback carousel, and it is hard for me to figure out what it is the Titans are actually going to do as far as the QB carousel is concerned. And because of Chad Brinker's obsession with being the Green Bay Packers and nowhere else for Aaron Rodgers to go, and the story that so many people in this town poo-pooed, including a lot of you all, that he owns a home out in Williamson County, which I believe at one point Ian was.
Raw land.
Raw land. Because of that, I need to know these details to know if I think Aaron Rodgers should or should not be the next quarterback of the Titans. These things are important. So either Diana got it wrong and reported bullcrap, which again is not beneath her to do. I like Diana, but Diana has reported some pretty big doozies in the past. And I mean that in a bad way for a reporter. Or the Jets, again, are acting like a bunch of junior prom date seekers. And I wouldn't put that past them either. You know, it was funny. I'll never forget when Rodgers had his stalemate with the Packers a couple years ago. And the Packers called his bluff. And he was doing that golf thing for TNT, the match. And he was asked about it. And Aaron, was making these like veiled, cryptic Aaron Rodgers comments on the golf cart about it. And I remember listening to him thinking, he knows he's got no leverage. He's sitting here talking about respect and he's talking about what he's going to demand. And he knows that if he decides to walk away, the Packers are going to come after him for that signing bonus money. And he's not going to give back $50 million. So he's got no leverage and he knows it. So what's going to happen is the Packers are going to do something that's going to make it look like, oh, yeah, we came to an agreement with Aaron, when really it's just going to be let's make it look like Aaron won something. So they kind of redid his contract, and Aaron put out there that if Aaron doesn't want to come back, Aaron doesn't have to come back. And then Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, said, that's not what we agreed to. Like, that's not what, again, with this stuff, who knows? With Aaron, it's the most high school girlish kind of thing on a year in and year out basis. So maybe it was Aaron that did that one way or another. But I find this fascinating that, again, Diana comes out with this story, makes it sound, again, insinuates like they said, give up the McAfee show or we're done. And the insinuation is Aaron wouldn't do that, and that's why they broke up. And Ian Rappaport said that's not what happened. And again, with Ian Rappaport, he makes up crap too, so who knows? But these details are very important if Aaron Rodgers can be the next quarterback of the Titans. 615-737-1025. By the way, we did find out that the brother-in-law quarterback coach for the New York Giants is Matthew Stafford's wife's brother. Ian, I believe that is correct?
According to Sports Illustrated.
Matthew Stafford's wife's brother. So if Matthew Stafford's wife's brother is the coach, and I was told at the Super Bowl that the one pushing Stafford away from the Rams is Stafford's wife, and I believe it was Colin Cowherd who said yesterday that Stafford's wife has angered some in the Rams organization, I guess it's not totally out of the realm of possibility. Our first quarterback carousel. Who's going where per the tea leaves? We will do next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I think it's an easy decision for me because I don't have time. Just given the current climate of the NFL and how we fire coaches every year, we fired 10 coaches in the first year in the last 10 years.
Yeah, Brian almost didn't make it out of this year.
So so if I'm that guy, do I really want to draft a young quarterback that I'm not quite sure about, okay, and roll for 24 months and lose a lot of games and go through the turmoil and the struggles and the adversity and maybe lose my job? Or am I going to bring in somebody who's already been through that, who's already been through the fires, and who's a little bit more refined, a little bit more prepared, a little bit more ready? So to me, it's either Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones. Out of the guys you gave me, that's my choices. Make a decision. It's one or the other. That's it. So I'm not going down. Mac Jones doesn't work for me. Justin Fields doesn't work for me. It ain't going to work for Brian Callahan or Bill either. It's between those two guys. There's your answer.
There you go. That was Rich Gannon on our program at the Super Bowl saying, look, it's two guys for me. It's Sam Darnold or it's Daniel Jones. I love that part when he goes, Mac Jones doesn't work for me. Justin Fields doesn't work for me. And it's not going to work for Brian or Bill either. If you remember, Rich was the starting quarterback on an AFC champion Raider team that was head coached by Bill Callahan. So it is time for our first rendition of the Stillman and Company QB Carousel. We spin the wheel, we put the coins in the machine, and we go off the very top, and we have put the Rams as a team on the QB Carousel. So we have Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants, the Raiders, the Jets, the Steelers, and the Rams. Ian, do we have some carousel music as we take our first ride on the QB Carousel? Okay. The first team up on the QB Carousel. Let's start with the LA Rams. Matthew Stafford. Everybody keeps saying that there is something to this Stafford-Rams standoff, that the Rams are tired of it, that it's Stafford's wife that's pushing it, Stafford's wife's brothers, now the quarterback coach with the Giants. There is a lot of smoke. And you know how I feel about smoke? And then, of course, they're being fired. But I know the Rams are a well-run organization. I know Les Snead knows ball. And not only do I know that Les Snead knows ball, but I also know that Sean McVay knows ball. And they know that they were right there. They were right there on the cusp of getting to the Super Bowl last year against the Eagles with Stafford. They'll find a way. They know $26 million is not enough for a quarterback of his caliber. Matthew Stafford is the quarterback of the LA Rams. The Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going with Russell Wilson. Because when the owner comes out to the team's website, and we around here know the owner does not have to speak in the NFL, in case you've noticed that with the Titans. The owner does not have to speak, but the owner did. The owner did a sit down with the team's website and said, we want one back, either Fields or Wilson. We're not going to bring back both. I do not believe that Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson have buried the hatchet, and thus Russell could go to the LA or to the Las Vegas Raiders. I just don't believe that. So I believe that Russell will take a below market contract. Again, Pro Football Focus says the expected AAV for Russell's $35 million. I think he'll take below that, probably closer to $20 million, and he will be the Steelers' next quarterback. Now's where it starts to get a little hairy. The New York Jets. And this is why I'm shocked. If we had done this a week ago, I would have put Aaron Rodgers on the carousel back to the New York Jets. Because I don't know who the Jets quarterback is going to be. It's not going to be one of the two quarterbacks in the draft because the Jets pick 7. So they pick after almost everybody that's on the carousel. They're not going to draft Jackson Dart with the 7th overall pick and start him week 1 in New York. They're stupid. They're not that stupid. So what are their options? Darnold? I don't think that's an option for the Jets. Been there, done that. Rodgers? They're moving off. Daniel Jones? Already failed in New York. So this was where it got tricky. Tyrod Taylor is under contract. for the New York Jets. In theory, they could just make Tyrod Taylor the quarterback and then draft Jackson Dart and sit him on the bench, but I don't think they're going to do that. I'm going to go with Justin Fields. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the kids are running the team. The kids of the owner are running the team, even though they just hired Aaron Glenn, and Aaron Glenn hired his own GM from Denver, and there's a lot of old New Orleans Saints, Sean Payton, a lot of that, which did make me think about Jameis Winston as a possibility. But the kids that play Madden football, they probably love Justin Fields. And so because they probably love Justin Fields, I have to believe that they're going to want Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor will back them up. So I'm going to go with Justin Fields to the New York Jets. The Las Vegas Raiders. This was one of two that was very, very difficult for me to decide. Adam Schefter has come out and said that the Las Vegas Raiders are going to pursue Sam Darnold in free agency. But what I struggle with in that regard to them going after Sam Darnold is I struggle with, why are they telling everybody that? Like, why are you telling people that you're interested in Sam Darnold? That doesn't make any sense. And then, would Pete Carroll want Sam Darnold? Would Chip Kelly want Sam Darnold? Chip Kelly's a wild card here because there are some ties with Chip Kelly. And if you're paying your offensive coordinator $6 million, he's got to say, with Mariota and with Will Howard, who's in the draft. But ultimately, the guy making the decision in Vegas is Tom Brady. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to convince Tom Brady that he's still got something left. I think it will be very easy to convince Pete Carroll and to convince Tom Brady that it is the Jets' fault. It is not my fault. I will be at OTAs, Tom Brady. I will stop saying crazy stuff on the McAfee show, Tom Brady. And I have Aaron Rodgers to the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, I don't think Aaron really wants to go there, and I'm not sure they really want Aaron, but they're not going to be able to draft the young guys because they're not going to have high enough picks. And if they don't get Darnold, then it's Daniel Jones. And can you really see Brady going after Daniel Jones? Me neither. Can you see Brady going after Mariota? Me neither. The New York Giants, I believe, will strike a trade with the Tennessee Titans. And I believe the New York Giants will trade their second-round draft choice, which I believe is 34th overall. Will trade their second-round draft choice to move up to number 1 and draft Cam Ward out of Miami. I believe that the Giants have got to go young. And my guess is, I don't think teams are going to look at this and say, okay, it's Ward and Sanders. What I've been told is there are a lot of people out there that like Ward and don't like Sanders. So they look at Cleveland at 2, and they know Cleveland's got to take a quarterback. The Titans have made it, I think, abundantly clear. They're cool with trading out of the pick. But I think the Titans would like to stay in that 3 range where they can still get Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. So what they're going to do is they're going to leverage 2 and 3 against each other. They're going to go to the Giants, and they're going to say, do you want your choice of quarterback? And then they're going to go to the Browns and say, do you want your choice of quarterback? And ultimately, I think it'll be the Giants that will move up and will draft Cam Ward with the number 1 pick. Cleveland. This one's easy, right? Shedeur Sanders. Cleveland is not going to be spending money in free agency at quarterback. So their options now would be Kirk Cousins. Cousins is going to want some money. It's going to be Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, Gardner Minshew. It's just, again, that's more of the same of what they had in Jameis Winston. So what they're going to do is they're going to draft Shedeur Sanders. And Shedeur Sanders is going to be something like 17th on their board. And they're going to take him number 2. And the reason that they're going to take him, even though he's the 17th best player with the number 2 pick, is because Jimmy Haslam, at the end of the day, is going to pull the Jerry Jones, I want him. And because unlike Jerry, who doesn't want Shedeur Sanders, because Jerry likes the attention to be on Jerry, Jimmy Haslam loves this crap. He loves it. He loves sticking his nose in there and doing the stupidest thing possible at quarterback. And in this case, just like Johnny Manziel in 2014, that I believe is Shedeur Sanders at number 2. I believe that he just like he couldn't say no to Watson 4 years ago, he will not be able to say no to Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders at number 2, which leaves one guy left on the table and one team. And that is the Tennessee Titans. And I believe the Tennessee Titans are going to sign Sam Darnold. I believe the Titans were going to trade for Sam Darnold. But if Minnesota doesn't put the tag on him, Tennessee will sign him. I think it'll be a 3-year deal, probably coming around $38 million a year. And it'll be basically a fully guaranteed deal, though it will not be reported like that because Amy is not going to be the owner who upsets the apple cart and gives a fully guaranteed deal to Sam Darnold. It'll be one of those, the 3rd year guarantees on the 4th day of the 2nd year. And I really thought about putting Darnold with the Raiders and Rodgers with the Titans, but I'm going to stick with this right now. Sam Darnold to the Titans. I cannot see Mike Borgonzi getting the job and just giving the team to Aaron Rodgers. So here you go. Darnold to Tennessee, Sanders to Cleveland, Ward to the Giants, Rodgers to the Raiders, Fields to the Jets, Wilson stays with the Steelers, and Stafford stays with the Raiders. 615-737-1025. Add that to the list. 615-737-1025. Plus, there's something that, I love some of my colleagues, but sometimes they are just dead wrong. We got to get to that, and we got a little potpourri coming up. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 1025 again.
As I think ahead to Saturday, I wonder if the Finns come back in a real critical game against Sweden, if they come back with Saros, or if they go with Kevin Lankinen. And Lankinen has just had an amazing season out in Vancouver. And with, a 6 spot up on the board here, it has to give you a little bit of a thought to whether you go with Saros again.
That was Ray Ferraro last night on the Four Nations broadcast, and Finland and their coach, Ian, help me if I'm saying this incorrectly.
Oh, man, I don't know his name.
Antti
probably.
Antti Pennanen.
Sure.
Antti Pennanen has announced that Kevin Lankinen will be in net tomorrow night, or I should say tomorrow afternoon, for the Finns against the Swedes in the Four Nations faceoff. Now, I'm not expecting anybody to watch that game. I'm certainly not going to watch that game. But it took UC Saros 1 game to get benched. And again, this is a benching that has occurred on the heels of a horrendous season where his save percentage is under 9, where he leads the NHL in losses after he signed a contract extension that has not kicked in yet. And the decision to sign Saros was the most polarizing decision that the Predators made. And there were I say half, that's being, I think, fair. I would say it was probably like 60-40 were in favor of moving on from Saros and move on to Askarov. And so, but Barry Trotz and the Predators, they think that Saros is the greatest thing since sliced bread. If you listen to our midday show, those guys will defend Saros tooth and nail. And I really think they believe it. I laughed because somebody tweeted me on the FanDuel broadcast of the Predators a couple weeks ago. They had this graphic up there about how it's not Saros' fault. Well, you change the players out, and all of a sudden, Saros goes in there, and he plays the exact same terrible in international play that he had been playing in NHL play. And he's already been benched. And his contract hasn't even kicked in. And so the rest of us are just kind of over here. I don't know about you all, but I'll speak for me, angry about the fact that the Predators have committed to this guy. And even his own team, his own country is like, yeah, no. And so we shall see. Also, by the way, I saw somebody put out there that they said the worst part about it is going to be that Finland is going to go up against Lankinen for the next game against a Swedish team. This is at Angry Preds fan who yesterday was pulling the whole excuse of Saros isn't out there playing defense. And I was like, there they go. There they go. Every time you talk about Saros, there they go. It's the defense's fault. It's this way. There they go. Said Finland is going to go to Lankinen for the next game against a Swedish team with less firepower than the Americans. They're going to allow less than 6 goals, and Jared Stillman is going to get all up on his high horse and get on his high horse on here talking about Twitter about it. I make no promises, but I will say I'm tired and sick of being told how great Saros is. That's the first thing in the potpourri. The second thing is, so YouTube TV and Paramount are having some kind of showdown, and people are freaking out. Let me tell you from experience. About 3 years ago, there was a big showdown between Disney and YouTube TV, and they pulled the Disney channels. And that included ABC and ESPN and ESPN2 and the SEC network. And I said, I cannot live like this. I signed up for another streaming service. Now, I was still in the streaming service trial window when 5 minutes later, YouTube TV and Disney reached an agreement. And I learned. Always let them, always wait until something that you want to watch comes on before you get upset about it. People are like, March Madness is a month away and I might lose CBS. You're not going to lose CBS. I'm not going to guarantee that YouTube TV will have Paramount in a month, but I think they probably will. Also, I saw the list of channels that are included in Paramount. Now, I have Paramount Plus too, which I'm not proud of, but I saw the list of channels. There's not a single channel I give a rat's ass about except for CBS, and that's for football and college basketball, and that's it. They don't have baseball. I don't care about golf. Like, that's it. They don't have the NBA. They don't have hockey. The NFL, they don't have any good college football anymore. The NFL, which is over, and college basketball. And even then, Turner has more games than CBS. So I wouldn't hit the panic button yet about what are you going to do with YouTube TV. I will say this, though. YouTube TV's price increases are starting to piss me off. Because that was the big thing when I first signed up, was like, man, this stuff is way cheaper. And now, not only is it not way cheaper anymore, but also they don't have the hockey games and they don't have the baseball games. And they used to have the hockey games and the baseball games. My guess is Google said, let's take it on the chin for a couple of years. And then they were like, no. Now we want to make some money. Adam in Portland's up next on a Fireball Hot Take Friday on UC Saros. Adam, thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Well, just let me say, dude, TV is so much weaker today than it was when we were kids. Like, so much weaker. Yeah, so Saros, man, I kind of like your take on Saros, but I've been saying it for a long time, too. Like, we spent a first-round pick on that dude, and we waited on him forever, talking about the guy we traded away, Askarov. And it's like, okay, Saros hasn't done anything. You know how much I love the Titans, Jared. Been calling you for like 8 years. I love them. I love them so much. My favorite thing sports-related in this world is Nashville Predators hockey in the playoffs. Like, in the playoffs. And we're not going to get to see that this year. It wasn't really competitive last year. And Saros is fully responsible for that. He's too short. I don't know why people act like it's a weird thing to say. This dude is not Pekka. Pekka was like a foot taller than him. He can't do the same things Pekka does. I'm not saying he's a bum, but I'm not saying he's good either. And, like, when your team isn't great, your goalie needs to be great. So I don't understand it. I think it was a stupid move to pay him a big contract because you're scared. That's the only reason you pay him is because you're scared for your job, and he seems like an easy choice to make. But I say stay with Askarov, man. But now we're stuck. If there's a real chance that you could trade him before his contract kicks in, I would be all about exploring that option.
Well, I said that, and Adam, I appreciate your call. I would trade Vegas's first round pick, which is what you acquired in the Askarov deal. I would attach that to Saros to get rid of him. That's how bad I do not want him anymore. And that's how low his stock has fallen. Like, that's how bad it is. And imagine the mea culpa if the Predators did that. Hey, we screwed up this extension for Saros. We should have never given that to him. And we should have never traded the other guy. But, hey, we got David Edstrom out of it. That's what that would be. But I am convinced as long as UC Saros is your starting goalie, you will not make it. You will not win a playoff series. And this was kind of the year that, okay, they're all in. They believe. Let's see it. And now he leads the NHL in losses. And now he's getting benched in the international tournament. It's not good. Chad Withrow joins us next from Outkick, Stillman and Company. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game National Studios, presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Chad Withrow from Outkick joins us on the program, presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. There is an ESPN.com story that is out in which league executives are pulled. Now, I think they use the word executives kind of loosely here. Executives and scouts on the top picks, prospects, and quarterbacks. ESPN talked to a handful of different people. I guess TD, Jeff Legwald, Daniel Oyafusi, and Catherine Terrell pulled NFL executives, coaches, and scouts to help answer these questions. Each reporter asked one question, and the number of responses differs from question to question. Will the Titans trade or keep the number one pick? 5 votes, trade the pick. 3 votes, keep the pick. Will the number one pick be on a quarterback? 3 votes on yes, 4 votes on no, 2 votes undecided. Well, who is the top quarterback in the class? Cam Ward, 4 votes. Shedeur Sanders, 3 votes. And who is the best prospect in the class, regardless of position? Abdul Carter, 7 votes. Travis Hunter, 5. Chad Withrow joins us now, presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Let's start with this. These executives think the Titans are going to trade the pick, Chad. When you hear that, what do you think?
Well, I think they're going to trade the pick too, so it's no surprise to me. That's a really small sample size, just 12 different people to poll and write a story around. So it's got some holes in it, I would say, but we're in speculation season right now, so anything is good fodder for the draft. I would be shocked. The numbers you threw out there about the majority of them, 5 and then 3 or whatever it was, believe the Titans will trade the pick. But then a majority of people, or right around dead even, think that it's not going to be a quarterback and be a quarterback. I think the Titans, if I have to guess, the Titans are going to trade the pick, and it's going to be someone that's trading up to get Cam Ward. So that doesn't square with me with that story on it's going to be a quarterback at the first pick. I'd be shocked if someone's trading up to number 1 to draft Abdul Carter.
So, Chad, I did a little quarterback carousel. We do them all throughout the offseason, of who's going to land where. I have the Titans going Sam Darnold, but it was one of the harder ones to peg. I feel like Stafford is going to stay in Los Angeles. I think Russell Wilson's going to stay with the Steelers. I think the Giants and Browns are going with the quarterbacks. Someone will trade, but Sanders to Cleveland, Cam Ward to the Giants. Then with Tennessee and the Raiders, it was really complicated. Sam Darnold's going to end up, I think, in one of those 2 spots. And then there's Aaron Rodgers. And somebody texted me today and said, oh, my God, the Titans going after Rodgers is going to make me go crazy. And I was sitting there, Chad, thinking, what did I miss? Did I miss something? And apparently Jeremy Fowler had the Titans as a team on TV that he was talking about as a potential destination for Rodgers. What do you make of Rodgers, and what do you make of the Titans and Rodgers at this juncture?
So in your quarterback carousel, is Derek Carr staying with the Saints?
Yes, I don't even have the Saints on the carousel. I think the Saints are Carr's their guy.
Yeah, Kellen Moore was very non-committal with him. He kind of gave the same answer he gave about everyone. Hey, I'm looking forward to getting him in the building and talking to these guys and seeing. But $53.1 million against the cap next year for Derek Carr, who was very good before he got hurt this year. His numbers were great. So I would possibly throw Derek Carr into that carousel. And would he be an option with the Titans also as another example of guys who could be moving around? Look, I think Aaron Rodgers is a big upgrade from what the Titans have had. I don't think it's a locker room or an organization strong enough to handle or manage the gigantic personality and opinion maker that is Aaron Rodgers. So I don't see the Titans being the most conducive spot for him to just kind of go along. Not that Aaron Rodgers is going to change who he is for anyone, but I know the Vegas odds initially had the Pittsburgh Steelers as the likely landing spot for Aaron Rodgers. That's at least one that's got such a built-up persona based on Mike Tomlin and what he's done there that maybe it works out and he can go and be, a good quarterback and still go on McAfee, and it's not going to be a big distraction to that locker room. I just don't see it being a strength for the Titans to bring in. I don't think they can handle Aaron Rodgers. and everything he's going to bring to the table. Now, I'll also say this. I think the distraction that he is on McAfee is way overblown. I get that it's a problem for the media relations team for the Jets, and they know that he's going to be asked all these questions at media availability about what he said on that show. But I really don't think that anything he said or done on McAfee was detrimental to the Jets organization or would have cost him friends or teammates within that locker room. So, him having a beef with Jimmy Kimmel or talking about all these other things or RFK Jr., I just don't think that's something that's going to make players in NFL locker rooms say, oh, I hate this guy. He's ruining our team. Now, if he goes and starts trashing teammates on the show, then, yeah, you've got a problem. But I correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall him doing that other than the one remark joking about possibly being cut or fired by a teenager. And he was talking about Woody Johnson's grandkids or kids.
Which way do you think Brady's going to go in all of this? Because that was the hard part for me with the Raiders. I put Rodgers there because I think Rodgers could convince Brady that he's the right choice for the Vegas Raiders. But I don't know. They're picking 6th. I'm not sure I see really a good choice there.
Yeah, I don't know that they have any relationship, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. I never hear the one talk about the other. Right? Like that quarterback club is so tight-knit, and watching the Rodgers documentary, like him and Josh Allen throwing it up and talking about their lives with each other at that quarterback camp. And I just never hear a lot about Brady and Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers would go work for Tom Brady. So I don't see that as a fit. But who knows? Again, I think the whole circus that surrounds Aaron Rodgers is overblown. But it's also a perception is reality situation. He's going to bring attention, and there are going to be people who always don't like him. So then the question becomes, is your locker room, is your culture, is your entire organization fit to handle Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback of that team? Here's the other thing. Aaron Rodgers comes to Nashville. He's the leader of the offense.
Yeah.
Give me the strong leader on this team, in this organization. Mike Borgonzi, who's been a GM for about 4 months. Is he going to tell Aaron Rodgers how to conduct business?
Chad Breaker, who won't hold a press conference on camera.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers can do what he wants. Again, I really think the Pittsburgh Steelers are maybe the one exception where he will go in and just go along with what they've been doing for years and years. I think everywhere else, his personality sort of trumps everyone, especially here in Nashville.
What do you make of the Jets? The Jets, very quick to say, I have a problem with this whole Diana Rossini report because Diana came out and said that they asked Aaron to go to OTAs and stop doing McAfee. But nobody ever reported whether Aaron said yes or no. And then Ian Rappaport came out and said, well, the Jets said these would be some things if we continue our relationship, but it never got to that, which doesn't make any sense to me either. So I don't even know what actually happened between Aaron and the Jets. But the Jets are picking 7th. I'm not a fan of Shedeur Sanders, but I don't think he'll be there with the 7th pick. You can't go down the Sam Darnold route. You already did that. You can't go down Daniel Jones. I mean, he's already failed in New York. You can't go down Aaron. You've already had him. What the hell are the Jets going to do?
Well, are they a possible trade partner with the Titans to trade up to number 1 and get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders?
That would cost a freaking fortune to go from 1 to 7.
Great. I mean, again, these are good options for the Titans. This is the brilliant thing about having the number 1 overall pick. I mean, to me, trading back to 7, you're going to get more in return, and that's exactly what the Titans need right now. Again, if you're not in love with Cam Ward. If they're in love with Cam Ward, you draft Cam Ward, no question about it, easy decision to make. But if not, then there's another possible trade partner for the Jets. I don't know what they're going to do. That's one that's a giant mystery to me. And the whole Rodgers thing about, well, they didn't want him to go on McAfee and they want to beat him. Of course, everyone who's going to talk to Aaron Rodgers doesn't want him on McAfee and wants him to go to OTAs. Was that the deal breaker? As you mentioned, Jared, did he say no to that? Or did he entertain that option? Did they say, well, if we got down the road, we'd want this, and then it never got down the road because they knew they were going to part ways with him? I don't know any of these things. I'd love to hear Aaron Rodgers on McAfee right about now where he could talk about, what he's looking for and whether or not he would say goodbye to certain things if it was the right situation and if he felt like it was the right situation, or even to know just how much he really wants to play football right now. I hear Travis Kelce on his podcast. Sounds to me like I don't want to play football anymore. And we're going to have to wait till March 13th because that's the soft deadline the Chiefs gave him to give them an answer. But he said, it became treachery essentially to go to the facility when you're going into January and getting ready for a Super Bowl. Just week after week after week, didn't love it anymore. So where's Aaron Rodgers' head and heart at right now when it comes to being the leader of a team and playing quarterback? I don't know. I feel like he wants to play because he flew to Jersey to meet with those guys. And I think if he just wanted out, he would just, hey, we'll talk on Zoom, or you can call me or call my agent. But the fact that he flew out there for a face-to-face meeting tells me he wants to keep playing.
Chad Withrow with us on the program. I've pissed off Titan fans today, which is nothing new. But Jeffrey Simmons went on, I guess, Deebo Samuel's podcast and said that he wants the Titans to take Abdul Carter with the first pick, said the Titans need help at edge rusher. I don't care what Jeffrey Simmons thinks the Titans should do, but what bothers me is the fact that Jeffrey Simmons, who thinks he's a bigger leader probably than he actually is, Jeffrey Simmons thinks it's okay to start voicing opinions on what the front office should do. Again, you know as well as anybody, Chad, that unless you've got real juice and you're trying to make a point like Myles Garrett, you stay out of those things and say, that's for the front office and the coach to decide. But the fact that Simmons could get on there and say, I think we need help at edge rusher, tells me, again, it's another sign of this culture with Brian Callahan that I don't like, which is everybody thinks they can do whatever they want. And that it's not buttoned up. I'm not sure if Vrabel would like it if his players were sitting there telling, the media or telling people what they think they should do. That one bothered me. And the Titan fans are mad because they're like, well, Jeffrey Simmons is allowed to have an opinion. By the way, I'm sure it went over great with Arden Key and Harold Landry when he said we need help at edge. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure those guys loved hearing that. I interviewed Jeffrey Simmons at the Super Bowl. He's a salty dude. I mean, it took 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 questions to warm him up at all to get more than 4 or 5 words in response to anything. He was very much like, that was last season. We talked about anything was it. Well, it's this the off season. We're looking to next season now. I'm not really in the mood to talk about last season, but yet feels like a guy who's so hung up on the lack of success the last couple of years that he's not really getting past this last season. So, look, he's a really good player. There's not a lot of really good players in the Titans team. Is he inflated in the minds and eyes of Titans fans because he's one of the few very good players in the team? Yes. His value has been overinflated by Titans fans. Would I love a guy going on a podcast giving me advice on who the team should pick if I'm the GM or the head coach? No. But I think it's just more in line of, to not harken back to the let Rand cook days. Who is the chef? Who's the sous chef? Who's the guy cooking the meals? Who's the guy putting the ingredients in, doing all that? I don't really know. And I don't know who has authority or power within that front office structure of the Titans. And this whole thing, and I heard this on your morning show a lot this week, this whole thing about continuing to go back and blame John Robinson for everything that ills the Titans is maddening. We have to stop this. Yes, he screwed up in the end. He's not the sole reason from 3.5 years ago or 4 years ago as to why the Titans are in this spot right now. It's because of continued ineptitude from coaching to Rand Carthon to Chad Brinker to people to Amy Adams Strunk to people within that organization. It's crazy to me to continue to try to pin everything on John Robinson. We have to get past that. If Titans fans and the Titans are going to move forward, they have to get this whole mental block of John Robinson living inside their heads and being the root cause of all the ills of the franchise. You got to remove that from your mind and move forward. I'm getting so tired of hearing that.
I mean, it sounds like you're talking about Paul, because I was disappointed this week too about the whole John Robinson is why this team stinks. It's like he was fired 3 years ago.
Yes. Now, was he a problem with those drafts? Of course. But it's just this shifting of the blame to constantly go back to him. He did a lot of good too. People don't want to point to all the good that he did, but he won a ton of games as the GM with the Titans. Did he have some awful drafts, and was he a bad first-round picker? Yes. Is that what eventually cost him his job? Yes. Should he have been fired with 7 games left in the season? Absolutely not. Did that help derail the franchise? Yes. Who's the main person to blame? It's not him. It's the owner. And the quicker people can understand that, the more they're going to see the problems, and maybe you can start to get to a solution. Now, the owner can change, right? The owner can make better decisions and let other people make decisions. And if you hire the right person, which she didn't with Rand Carzon, everyone would agree, not the right guy for the job. Maybe Mike Borgonzi is. I'm willing to give him a fair shake. But to give him a fair shake, we have to move past this boogeyman curse, oh my gosh, everything is John Robinson's fault mindset from Titans fans, from whoever says it, Paul, Joe, any show host, anybody in the city. He's not to blame for everything. He is to blame for some things, not for everything. And he was a good GM. It's why he's going to have a chance to be a GM again. And how many times do GMs resurface, by the way? Very rarely. If he gets another GM job, that says a lot. Mike Vrabel being the head coach of the New England Patriots tells me a lot. He's a good coach. Is he great? No. Is he good? Yes. Titans need more good. That's the bottom line. Maybe Borgonzi's good. Don't know. But they need more good. And we got to stop going back 3 and 4 years in the past and, oh, John Robinson's to blame for all this. And they're still digging out of this hole. Give me a break. They've had plenty of chances to improve this team and improve their fortunes. They have. They drafted Will Levis in the second round. That's what they did.
Traded up for that. More Chad Withrow next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Chad Withrow is with us, presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Chad, do you have a thought, or do you want to get right onto the hot seat?
Let's get to the hot seat.
Okay, number one. You brought this up in the last segment, but John Robinson has interviewed for the Jacksonville Jaguars general manager position. Should Titans fans, A, want John Robinson to be the Jags GM, or B, be worried that he could be the next Jags GM?
And they should be very, very worried that he's the next Jags GM. I don't think any Titans fan legitimately is wanting him to be the GM. Deep down, Titans fans know that in J-Rob we trust was a thing, and that John Robinson, under his guidance, helped get this team to an AFC championship game, that he got them to the number 1 overall seed, and that while it did get bad late, he is a guy that's got some credibility in the league and that has done some really good things and did some really good things with the Titans. So they should be very worried if he is the GM of the Jacksonville Jags. And I'll also say this about John Robinson. I think he will have learned from his mistakes with the Titans. I think he'll be better with Jacksonville if he gets that job. So I think Titans fans are worried and should be worried. Whether they're saying that or not, that's just bluster. They're worried about it. They should be worried.
By the way, if he has success in Jacksonville, that could really get Amy to do something stupid. Like, of all the stupid things she's done, let's say that next year they play Jacksonville and they lose 41-13 and he's the general manager of the Jags. Like that, you thought it was bad before. I mean, she might kill somebody. That is.
Maybe it'll get her to relinquish control to Kenneth Adams and everybody wins. Maybe that'll be the crazy thing she does.
Amen. Number 2, what do you make of Kelly Stafford's brother being named the quarterback's coach for the New York Giants?
Very interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. I think Stafford is still really good. Like I just watching him late in the season, I'm like, man, this looks like the guy who won the Super Bowl, not so long ago. So yeah, the whole thing in LA and how that's kind of falling apart, that is definitely one to watch with him, with the Giants. It's the Giants and Jets, to me, are the two big mysteries, both in the draft and what they're going to do at quarterback and what their future looks like. So would not be shocked at all if that is a preemptive strike to possibly end up with Matthew Stafford as the Giants quarterback.
Number 3, you came on the program last week and said you believed that this would be Travis Kelce's final game. Up until that point, there was no discussion and no evidence that Travis Kelce's final game was imminent until right around kickoff. Chad Withrow, was it a hunch, or had you heard something last week before you made your proclamation that we were watching Travis Kelce's last game?
I had heard something, but not enough to where I would say that I was sourced or really wanted to go with it. But it was more hunch. I heard something, I would say 75% hunch, 25% heard something. But Jared, if you look into the eyes, go back and pause when they go to Travis Kelce on the sideline, when they're down, 34-0 in that game, and the look of bewilderment and exhaustion in his face throughout that game on the sideline. And then they've got those cut-ups of him just dogging it during the game, of not giving any effort. And I'm watching that game and I'm thinking, man, my hunch must have been very right, because he looks awful. He looks busted. He looks old. He looks disinterested. All of those things in that game. And then he goes on his New Heights podcast, and I listened to the podcast episode, and he says, yeah, when you're early in your career and you're hungry, all those extra games and weeks of going to the stadium and going to the facility, it's great. You're energized. And then you get into the point that I'm at, and it's tough to go to the stadium for the extra games. It's tough to go to the facility those extra weeks, and you're going to every AFC championship game and every other Super Bowl. That becomes difficult on the body and what it puts you through. And I'm thinking, yeah, this guy's cooked. He's retiring. He's going to go be a movie star. He's going to go propose to Taylor Swift, all of those things. So I feel really good about my hunch. In closing, I feel really good about the hunch, having seen the game and then heard him afterwards. I think the guy's about to retire.
Number 4, is Patrick Mahomes done chasing Tom Brady?
Absolutely not. He's not even 30 years old yet. He's got 3 Super Bowls. He's been to 5. Now, he got destroyed in 2 Super Bowls. So if you want to do a big mark against Patrick Mahomes right now, when Brady lost Super Bowls, they were close. It was typically heartbreaking fashion when they actually lost the Super Bowl. But no, he's not done chasing Tom Brady. I think that now Andy Reid's status, that's an interesting one to follow. How much longer is he going to coach? But I don't think the Chiefs are going anywhere permanently. They're going to reload, retool some things, and he'll get back in a spot. So no, I'm not giving up on Patrick Mahomes before he turns 30 years old.
Number 5, is this the best basketball conference the SEC has had in your lifetime?
It's the best basketball conference that any conference has had in my lifetime. I would go back to some 90s ACC and look top to bottom in the league, and it probably gets close. But, I mean, Jared, I think right now we're looking at 12 or 13 teams getting in, which would set a record. I believe the ACC got 12 in one time, maybe 11 or 12, which is a record. I think they could get 13. They could get 14, but that's not going to happen. I think it's probably going to land around 12 that actually make the NCAA tournament. 12 out of 16 teams making the tournament. That non-conference record, which the conference record is hilarious that it tripped up Carl Ravitch too, about the 500 in conference, and Mark Pope was really funny talking about it. It's the best basketball conference, not just SEC, the best basketball conference I've seen ever in my lifetime. And the coaching is incredible. It's really crazy when you think about Greg Sankey. What was it, like 6-7 years ago? He was at a point of crisis where there were 4 or 5 teams that were good enough to make the tournament. And Greg Sankey had this big edict to up the facilities, put more of an investment into the conference. And look at it now. It's crazy how good this conference is.
Which takes me to the next one, which is, what has Mark Pope proven to you at Kentucky?
He can coach offensive basketball. I mean, that's kind of what he does, right? That's Utah Valley State, BYU, now Kentucky. He gets really good shooters, and he can play offense. He can score. Now, the next step is getting guys who buy in on the defensive end, where you're better defensively and you're not, have a Ken Pom rating in the 40s or 50s or wherever they are right now, maybe lower than that defensively, but they can score. And winning twice against Tennessee, they've got 8 wins against Quad 1. By the way, Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky are tied for second in college basketball. They each have 8 wins against Quad 1. Alabama has 8 wins against Quad 1 too. They're tied in that group as well. Auburn has 13. So number 1 has 5 more Quad 1 wins than all the teams tied for second, which is crazy. Kentucky now has more wins against AP top 15 teams in his first year than any team in college basketball history after the win over Tennessee. And again, that just goes back to the ridiculous nature of this conference and how many chances you get against top 15 teams, because how many of them are from the SEC.
Next one. Are you nervous about Tennessee and their struggles lately versus Kentucky, Auburn, and Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's kind of it reminds me a lot of the team 2 years ago where they were great defensively, but you just didn't know we were going to go get a bucket when you really needed it. They remedied that with Dalton Connect a year ago. Chaz Lanier just doesn't seem like that guy. Now, he may very well hit 5 threes in the first half tomorrow against Vandy. He's much better at home. He could get hot, but you can't go 0 for 7 from 3 at Rupp and have a chance. When your leading scorer does that, you're not going to win. I was shocked Tennessee was up 3 points with 4 minutes left, quite frankly, being down 7 at halftime and then going on that run. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a team that's got a very low ceiling in the NCAA tournament. Now, when they're hitting threes, they're unbeatable, right? I mean, if they hit tomorrow, they're going to win going away. When they don't, anybody can beat them because they don't have that guy they can go to that's locked down, that can either drive and get something on their own or hit from the outside consistently. So it's like a lot of teams we've seen from Tennessee where they're very good. They're number 1 in Ken Pom defensive efficiency by a long shot, but they're in the 30s offensively. And guess what? To win a national title, you got to be top 15 in both. We've seen that over the last 18 or 20 years. Tennessee's not offensively. So it's a team that would be they'll do very well to get out of the first weekend, get to a Sweet 16. But I think anything past that, it's a tough ask for this group because, Jared, I don't know where the scoring is going to come from when they really need it.
Last one. Any interest in the Four Nations face-off? And what are your thoughts on USA and Canada and how good that could be for the NHL?
I'm interested in the Canadians booing the national anthem, which is just hilarious to me every time. I'm waiting to see if American hockey fans start to boo "O Canada" in American
Well, they booed
arenas.
"O Canada" here.
They did?
Like
Good.
So the day after they booed the U.S. national anthem in Toronto, the next day, I believe it was Ottawa. I can't remember. I was with you in New Orleans, but Ottawa or somebody came in here and they booed the Canadian national anthem, which I like, by the way. I like the Canadian anthem.
It's a beautiful anthem. It's a beautiful anthem, but if they're going to boo ours, we boo theirs. I like it. I'm all for Taylor Swift getting booed by Philly fans because she represents the Kansas City Chiefs, and they hate the Chiefs in Philly. So I'm all for it. I will say this. I had no idea even what it was until 24 hours ago. Didn't know it was happening. No clue. I turned on my TV last night, happened to see that it was on. I watched about 15 minutes of it. It's the most entertained I've been by hockey in about 2 or 3 years. So I'm enjoying it, having known nothing about it. It seems completely fabricated out of nowhere. I don't know if I should even care at all about it, but I am a sucker for patriotism, and I'm a sucker for pitting countries against each other in sports. So I kind of love it, and I love the game last night, and I love the U.S. win.
Well, here's my thing about what's going to make this or break this or what it – if the players, and they did the first 2 nights, Canada and Sweden the first night and last night, if the players play like they give a crap, that is going to be like, because you're going to have Crosby and McDavid and McCarr and McKinnon and all those guys for Canada, and we're going to have Austin Matthews and the Kachuk brothers and everything else. And I think there can be people in West Virginia who would never turn on an NHL game that can turn on the game tomorrow night and say, USA, USA. And that's how you get people who don't give a rat's ass about hockey to care about hockey. But the players have to care. And it looks like from the first 2 games, the players really care, which makes me get into it.
Well, you want to get those people in Wheeling, West Virginia, even more excited about hockey for the first time? Keep booing the national anthem. That's what's going to draw them in.
You know what? That's true.
Baby. If those Swedes or Finns want to boo the national anthem too, Americans will tune in. They do not like to be disrespected. They don't want someone disrespecting their anthem, so they'll tune in. I'm more interested in hockey right now because the national anthem is getting booed. I think it's great for the sport. So keep it up, Canada. Keep it up. Keep the boos coming.
And I assume great for Outkick too. Chad Withrow from Outkick, presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Chad, great stuff. We'll talk soon.
Business is booming, Jared. It's all great. Thanks, man.
Yep, there is some truth behind that. I'll tell you that right now. Now, let me just say this. I don't have a problem with booing the national anthem. Like, I'm not talking about I would ever boo America's anthem. Never. But I don't have a problem with the Canadians booing our anthem. And if they're going to boo our anthem, then we can boo their anthem. That's how I feel about it. And I'm fine with it. And also, Taylor Swift should not take it personally that she got booed at the Super Bowl. Tickets to her concert cost more than tickets to that game. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company. We'll get some of your phones. Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 of the game. Fireball whiskey. Nothing goes down as smooth or tastes as great as ice cold Fireball cinnamon whiskey. Again, ignite the night. Be sure to celebrate Valentine's Day with your loved ones with ice cold Fireball cinnamon whiskey. Ladies, let me tell you, that gift that you picked out that you think your husband or boyfriend or whatever will like, they won't. Get them Fireball. They will love it. It goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. Ignite the night. Please do responsibly. Be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball cinnamon whiskey. I mean, here's what I love about this. This is why I want John Robinson, who I actually think is probably better at his job, the old general manager with Vrabel. Yeah. I think he's probably a better GM than Vrabel is a coach. But what I really, I want him to get a GM job, and I'm glad Vrabel has this job with a terrible team right now because I want to see the scoreboard. Like, somebody's going to be right about this. Somebody's going to be wrong. We have no idea now, but at some point, we will know who was right and who was wrong. And if Vrabel goes and wins a Super Bowl with the Patriots, I'll say I was wrong, and Vrabel can smack me on the tush if it makes him feel better. I don't know. That was me last week at the Super Bowl in the Felger and Mavs program in Boston. And in that guy, I said, God, I just want John Robinson to get a job. And I'm so glad Vrabel has a job. And now we'll see. And I asked Chad Withrow, I said, how worried should Titans fans either A, root for John Robinson to get the Jags job? Like, if Rand Carthon was up for the Jags job, or Rand Carthon was up for the Colts job, or Rand Carthon was up for the Texans job, I would pray to the Lord that they hire him. Because I think Rand Carthon don't know football. And so I would be so happy that one of these other fan bases would be duped into believing in Rand Carthon. So should they be hopeful that John Robinson gets a job, or should they be scared John Robinson gets a job? I think John Robinson's a good general manager. So if John Robinson say, ha, 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 ha. Now let's see if you guys think he sucks as bad as you do. Because what Chad Withrow said, I think, is 100% right, which is John Robinson's going to learn from his mistakes. He's not going to trade away A.J. Brown a second time. Howie Roseman right now is considered the best general manager in the NFL. Howie Roseman went a 3-year period where he did not make a first-round pick because he traded it in 2018. In fact, here was a Howie Roseman 5-year period, because we hear all the bitching about John Robinson's first-round picks. Howie Roseman, 2016, Carson Wentz in the first round. The next year, traded that first-round pick for Carson Wentz. So in 2017, now they did have a first-round pick, obviously, in 2017, because they traded away Sam Bradford, which was bad. But again, the year they got Carson Wentz, we would all say he's kind of a bust. 2018, they didn't have one. They took Derek Barnett. He was fine. Derek Barnett never went to a Pro Bowl. He started 3 seasons in the NFL. He was fine. It's like Corey Davis. So they drafted Derek Barnett, nobody in 2018, Andre Dillard in 2019, Jalen Reagor in 2020. Howie Roseman sucked. Today, Kaharski is like, that's apples and oranges. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a general manager who made bad picks, who learned from his mistakes, and now he's drafting like it's nobody's business. One texter says, our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. In response to what Chad said, I am 100% not worried about John Robinson going to Jacksonville. He did not learn from his mistakes in the 3 years that he flushed this franchise down the toilet. So I had to ask back to the texter. I had to say, how do you know that? How do you know John Robinson didn't learn from his mistakes? And he said, just going off his decision-making and players that he drafted in the last few seasons that he was here. So you don't know that. So you're just saying that there's no way that he learned from his mistakes. I will say this. I don't know about Liam Cohen as a coach. I mean, I know Liam Cohen a little bit, but I don't know him that well. Like, I don't know him well enough to say whether or not he's going to be any good or not. I like Liam Cohen. But if John Robinson's picking the players with those 2 edge rushers, with that wide receiver, I mean, with a quarterback, again, that team has a quarterback. Granted, he's not a great quarterback. He's not as good as he should be at quarterback, but it's workable. I would love to see the Titans go up against that. Because if John Robinson's team porks Amy's team, Amy's going to do something crazy. And at this point, if you're not going to be good, at least let's be fun. And that might be the route that it ends up going. But if you're one of these people like Kaharski that just want to bash John Robinson all day, then you should hope, as a Titan fan, that John Robinson gets that job. But this idea that you can say definitively he didn't learn from his mistakes is crazy talk. You don't even know that. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know. 615-737-1025 on our program, Stillman and Company. Fireball Hot Take Friday, 102.5, 106 to the game. Stillman and Company. This is traditionally the segment every week for the last however many weeks, Ian. What are we thinking? 25 weeks we've done six-pack picks?
Oh, man. Actually, I wrote it down. What was it? Oh, probably like 20, 21, 22, 23 weeks.
Man, our baby would almost be, our six-pack picks weeks baby would almost be, cooked. So with that, how did we do this season? By the way, I have a prediction for the end of the show that's not part of six-pack picks. That's over. But I do have a big prediction to make at the end of the show. Ian, how did we do last week in six-pack picks, and how did we do on the season?
I'll give you a guess.
I did not finish 500.
You finished 500, yeah.
No way!
So let's see. Kansas City -1. You picked Philly to win, 31-17, so you got that.
And hey, I picked Philly to kick that ass, and Philly did kick that ass.
Over-under. You picked the under. It went over. Garbage time,
Yeah.
but it did go over. You picked over on the Mahomes passing yards. He did hit the over. You picked under on the Hurts passing yards. He ended up going over. You picked over on the Barkley rushing yards. He went under. And you picked under on Kelsey, and that was correct. So 3-3 on the Super Bowl for a season total 58, 58, and 2.
That is almost impossible. Like that'll never happen again. So if I was a gambler, I would have lost money this past season because, again, they take the I would have been the perfect, just perfect Vegas better at exactly even. Thus, they would have gotten the juice, and they would have been paying out as much as they would have been getting in from me. I would have lost a lot of money because 10% of all those bets, what did you say, 58, 58, and 2?
Yep.
So what is that, 106? No, 116, 118 at 10%. So a 10% of 118 bets, they would have gotten the juice. That is wild. One texter says, please warn all casuals, do not bet on Kyle Larson to win the Daytona 500 as part of a pick six. Happy Valentine's Day to you fellas. Enjoy the weekend. Ian, how do we feel about Kyle Larson in the Daytona 500 on Sunday?
Turn left, baby. Turn left.
I mean, hey, how's his engine humming? I don't know. So here is the prediction I'm going to make on our way out this weekend. I am taking Canada tomorrow night to beat the United States. The game is in Canada. I think the United States is going to be overconfident because they beat up on old UC Saros last night. Canada, I think, has better players. And again, they're playing at home, and their country is furious at the United States. So Canada, I'm going to go Canada wins 4-1 tomorrow night in the big game. And again, it's a big game in my household because obviously we're half American, half Canadian. So go USA, but I am picking Canada. That is it for us. Everybody have a very happy Valentine's Day. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you all Monday at 2. Vandy Baseball at 6:30, and enjoy that.